Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Weekly Spinner Rack. I'll be your host. My name's Chris. This is going to be a fun episode. If it's your first time tuning in, congratulations. We are going to talk about all sorts of really interesting and some of it quite wild comic book news. We are going to review some of the latest comics that came out. So definitely interesting stuff to talk about. Some of it I loved, some of it I didn't love so much. So kind of crosses the range, the gamut of quality. And we've got our live audience here. It's going to be really fun. We're going to also be drawing at the end, and I'll just sort of do a live chat with everybody. So we've got several segments tonight. We're going to do news, we're going to do reviews, and then we're going to do sort of a cool down. Lovely to see so many familiar faces here. Looks like Mike says that he's drawing tonight, including Trapjaw, the MCU version of X-23, me, and some original characters. I love hearing that. That's awesome. Welcome. Glad to have you here for the first time then. This is going to be a good show. Hey, it looks like Dave's back from his trip to the land of the rising sun. I can talk metaphorically. Lovely to see so many wonderful people here. Just throwing out some random hellos to all of you. All right, crack open that ice cold, sugar-free Baja Blast. Thank you very much for the support, Steve. Tell you what, folks, let me real quick get started with the opening monologue. I know this is why everybody tunes in. Just wanted to update you on some of the most important news. That's why people tune in here. So, DC Comics told retailers this week to go ahead and sell the comics that have arrived damaged. We'll go into more detail there, but yes, DC's comics all arrived nationwide with spine ticks, lots of damage to the cover. DC has said that the damage doesn't affect readability. Yeah. Which is also what I tell myself when I sit on my glasses. Very proud of that one. Very proud. Very proud. Also, a Daredevil comic that was made by Marvel for Blaze Pizza is now selling regularly online for over $200. It's all part of the new promotional slogan by Blaze Pizza. Our cheese may not have aged well, but our promotional comics will. Okay. We've warmed up. Yes. People are ready. Like to just tell a couple jokes to let people filter in and get things going. But I think that we should keep things moving. So how about we move to the news of the week?
We're sitting on top of the story of the century here.
Put an ad on the front page. Cash money for a picture of Spider-Man. He doesn't want to be famous, and I'll make him infamous.
Hi guys, this is April O'Neil from Channel 6 News, and I am here in beautiful New York City.
Hey, all right. Sorry, was having a little bit of coffee. Go here, yummy macho. That one was a pretty exaggerated version. Sorry. Look at that. I'm pulling out my pockets to indicate, hey, I can't afford that. When did that become a visual trope? The idea of like pulling out your pockets to show that you have no money. I would bet, I don't know this, but I would bet that dates back to the Great Depression. Don't you think? I think that that's something like, that's like a 1930s joke. I don't know. All right, let's see what we've got for the first piece of news. So, look how happy Spidey is. All right. The Russo brothers were interviewed by Comic Book Resources. Congrats to them. That's a good pull for an interview. Obviously, trying to hype up people for the upcoming Avengers Doomsday. Anyway, they revealed that they intentionally reimagined Spider-Man with a different canonical origin when they decided to first use him in the MCU. He debuted all the way back in Captain America Civil War. I think people have speculated about this, but here's an actual quote. Joe Russo said, quote, "Spider-Man was one of my favorite characters growing up, if not my favorite. And what I related to was this idea of a kid with incredible responsibility, right? And I think you could manifest that responsibility through accidental death, right? And feeling the pressure and the sense of loss in your life in a way that would keep the spirit that we wanted. Yeah, we all know Uncle Ben dies because of a mistake Spider-Man made. Great power, great responsibility. Pretty key element of the character, and they eventually get there. But this is his quote continues. But what Tom Holland is as an actor, if he blamed himself for his Uncle Ben's death, I think he becomes a very different character. So in our minds, no, he wasn't responsible for Uncle Ben's death. That would have been a different interpretation, a more intense interpretation of the character. I guess. So this is just a Spider-Man that's just altruistically good, I guess. I feel like that's a very strange take, personally. The idea of like the most unique part of his origin isn't really his powers or anything. It's that he makes a mistake and he pays for it in the most personal way possible, and that guilt drives him. Maybe that's melodramatic, but that's comic books. I feel like that's a weird ass thing to have said that they intentionally removed. Oh well. I did not see that. Who knows? Oh, where's the ticker tape? Asks Swain. Good point. Yeah, let me throw up the banner so you can see what stage we're at in the show, because there's a lot of topics tonight. So there you go. Help you follow along if you're jumping in or jumping out. Anyway, weird take is all I've look, we've got the movies that we've got, which I think are very good and things work. It's just bizarre to me to think that they were like, yeah, that didn't happen. I guess I always assumed that we've just seen his origin enough before and they didn't feel the need to show it. But they're saying no, they intentionally just that whole thing just didn't happen. Oh, well, all right. We got some more Marvel news. Yeah. Mary Jane, face it, Tiger. So Marvel's celebrating the 60th anniversary of Mary Jane Watson. I think she looks very good for her age. She looks good no matter what. Anyway, she originally debuted Amazing Spider-Man issue 42 by Stan Lee and John Romita Sr. They're going to do this 60th anniversary called Face It, Tiger. Comes out in August. Okay. Creators involved. Some really great writers. I think Dave Mateus is a classic Spidey writer. J. Michael Straczynski, super successful run. Ann Nocenti, I adore. I associate her more with Daredevil, but that's me. Ashley Allen, I'm not as familiar with. And then the artists, I only knew the first one. They're using Phil Noto, Alina Arafeva, Andrea Braccardo, Luigi Zagaria. And at this point, I feel like they're just throwing in extra vowels into, like alphabet soup and just giving us made up Italian names. But who knows? Maybe it's real. They're just hiring anyone that has an Italian name at this point. What else? Marvel says that the stories are going to cover all of Mary Jane's eras, when she was a supporting character, when she was the main romantic interest, the wife of Spider-Man, and eventually, of course, superhero and host of Venom symbiote, as well as a hint as to what her future will hold. I agree. Phil Noto is a very good artist. Very good artist. But I think that's a little interesting. I don't know. Mary Jane, definitely a character that has sort of grown quite a bit in the last 5 to 10 years, especially. Marvel's really pushed her in a big way. I do think it's kind of, I let me reassess my thoughts here. When they made her a superhero called Jackpot, that didn't necessarily completely fit for me. But having her become a host of the Venom symbiote, I think could work for any supporting character. And I do think is overall a fair move and an interesting way to go with the character. But I'm not up to date on the comics, so I'm not an expert on that. I think that it's just a fair take. Yeah, it is kind of interesting. I agree, EJ. Why did the Russos say that now? I really don't know. That's why I just brought it up. It was weird to me. But I've got stuff to say aside from Spider-Man and Spider-Man adjacent stuff, right? Oh, yeah, just real quick. Main cover by Jim Chung, but I personally really like this. Variant cover by David Nakayama. I just really liked how much negative space he used to frame the character. Let's talk about something I joked about earlier, which is the Blaze Pizza Daredevil comic. Any of you that watch this show regularly may remember that I reported that this was a promotional comic that was going to come out. Well, look at the prices it's going for. These are real. These are real sold prices on eBay, not asking for, actually sold. Blaze Pizza, not the biggest pizza chain in the world. I didn't even know about them before I reported on the news originally, but they partnered with Marvel Television to release a Born Again promotional comic with the release of a special pizza that they had. Something weird like hot honey, I want to say. Yeah, anyway, I'm not going to get into that. Folks are now flipping those comics for a lot. The supply was capped at 25 comics per location per event. And there were 2 events, one in March and one in May. So 50 comics per location. You had to walk in. You couldn't use the app. You couldn't do it online. None of that stuff. You could only get 1 per visit. And there were only 10 stores participating. So the math on that is 500 copies. 500 copies. It's currently selling for between 150 to 200. But initially, the first few days, a lot more. The March one and then the new day of the May, like they were definitely selling for a lot. The comic, it's by, just to be clear, writer Paul Allor and Ramon Box, and it's a prequel to season 2 of the TV show. It follows Cherry. He's a private detective, works with Matt Murdock. He's been hired to figure out where Daredevil could be, and so it just sort of catches you up to speed on where all of the cast members are and sets the groundwork for the show because he's interviewing various supporting characters and stuff. But yeah, isn't that crazy to see these prices? I guess just limited supply, 500 copies, and not everybody's selling their copies. So that is pretty limited. But I'll just tell you that, you know, it's only a step above like the old DC Comics Subway comics co-starring Jared Fogle. That's a real thing. If you want to get the word out about your restaurant chain, do a Marvel Comics tie-in. How beautiful. A lot of them probably do have grease stains. It's true. All right. Yeah, Marvel is launching a new universe. They're ending the Ultimate Universe. They're basically creating a new Ultimate or Absolute type of universe, but a darker version. It's called Midnight. Let me give you some details on that. So, Marvel announced a new universe with several of their characters. So a shared universe, but darker, sort of a horror setting. The overall line is called Midnight. So this new universe is not the new universe. It is not an ultimate universe, but it is a new universe. Thank you for the roar, Rex Carr, and thank you for the super chat as well, especially with how late it is over there. Thank you. Interesting. So the Midnight Universe is going to kick off with 3 different titles here. We've got Midnight X-Men by Jonathan Hickman and Matteo Della Fonte. I don't know this artist off the top of my head. That's going to debut in August. So obviously Hickman's, again, overseeing a lot of this, just to be clear. We've got a Fantastic Four by Benjamin Percy and Kev Walker. They're definitely sort of the 2 examples of workhorses at Marvel right now. And then a Spider-Man title. That one's by Philip Kennedy Johnson, and I have no idea who this artist is. Sorry. She-Trunk, maybe? With their little promo line. The light had its turn. But we've got a few details on this. Midnight X-Men is going to be not so much about, an at-risk group trying to fit in with society. This is going to be about vampires and mutants in this fragile, tenuous relationship teetering on war. Vampires and mutants. Oh. Midnight Fantastic Four doesn't say which scientist, but it says it follows a scientist, presumably Reed. But anyway, it follows a scientist exploring that accidentally unlocks a cosmic Lovecraftian horror. To me, that reads as somebody, like Reed, opening a door to the negative zone, but it's just a dimension of chaos and evil. We'll say that's just where my mind goes. And Midnight Spider-Man introduces a version of Peter Parker transformed into a spider hybrid by Oscorp as the corporation uses his mutation to experiment further. I'll tell you this. Knowing these premises and knowing how people react to it, I would expect the X-Men comic where they fight Dracula to go up in value for back issues, and I would expect issues where there's a version of the Man Spider, like his first appearance, the Man Spider, to go up in value. I'm not into speculating on back issues. I don't want to keep up with all of that and just constantly flip things, but that would be my assumption. Those are 2 books that will go up. A New Universe is the ultimate comic trope. I'm the ultimate comic trope, but you're right. Thanks for checking in, Gene. Nice to see you. Yeah, the scientist could easily end up being any of the Fantastic Four or even some sort of a friend, but we'll get it. I think that's a piece of it. I think that they said, okay, maybe we ended the Ultimate Universe too soon, but whatever. We're going to give it a definitive cap. I don't think that's the worst decision in the world. I don't. But it makes sense to have a line start from scratch. New readers can easily jump in. What's something we haven't done yet that seems to be working? And I think that they look and see that Absolute Batman specifically as the best-selling one is pretty much a horror book a lot of the time. All the villains have a horror take, but I would say that's only a piece, a component of what makes Absolute Batman successful. Absolute Batman is the confluence of a lot of different things. Timing, the creators, some of it the horror take on the villains, but I think that there's several elements that make it new and interesting. Maybe something like that. Yeah, instead of Annihilus or Blastar or Galactus, maybe they run into, some old ones, something close to that. I see all of these, and honestly, the premise of Fantastic Four interests me the most out of those 3. Creative team-wise, I kind of lean towards X-Men, I think, but they're all a little interesting. They're interesting enough that I'm like, okay, I'll peek at it. I'll try it. That's a good point too. You're right, of course. But that being said, X-Men and Spider-Man, at least, are also examples of really popular intellectual property, to put it in really capitalist terms. Just get really ruthless. Yeah, I don't know the artists on X-Men or Spider-Man off the top of my head. Kev Walker is a good artist. I don't know that I've ever gone out of my way for a Kev Walker book, but that doesn't mean anything bad. It's both. Yeah, it's both a horror line and a reimagining line. So it's both. It's both. Which makes sense. I mean, it is so Marvel Comics, you know, the idea of them just doing, I don't know, a Tales from the Crypt type book or a Walking Dead type book. They could, of course, but is that what we expect out of them? No. That is sort of the surprise, is that they're going with their well-known superheroes instead of a take on Man-Thing, Werewolf by Night, characters like that are from their horror past. I'm curious. I'm more than curious, to be honest. I didn't expect anything quite like this on just about any level. So I'm like, okay, Marvel, you've at least surprised me. And they do, to their credit, have some great European artists that they hire these days, as well as like they're hiring artists from, like, you know, the Philippines and other countries like Brazil, Argentina. But I don't know that they've necessarily had a breakout artist in a little while. They've had some writers get a lot of success, but I see Image, DC, even like IDW and Dark Horse getting artists here and there that are like, you know, big, exciting names. And I feel like that's something Marvel's missing a little bit. I lean towards thinking it was Hickman's. Absolutely. Well, I'm going to keep moving on. Just wanted to bring that to people's attention. We'll probably learn more details in the coming weeks before it launches. For the Star Wars fans out there, I thought I'd just clue you into a Star Wars comic that came out this week. For this year's May the 4th, you know, May the 4th be with you. It's Revenge of the Sith. It's Revenge of the 6th. I get it. I get it. That's very cute. Wasn't it something like May 20th is the actual release date / anniversary of Star Wars? It's not May 4th. This just has a cute little phrase to it. But anyway, forget all that. It's good marketing. May the 4th, Star Wars celebrated by releasing a comic, an exclusive comic at Disney parks, based on a pirate character named Hondo Ohnaka. Everybody's favorite, right there after Wilro Hood, the guy that's carrying the ice cream maker in Empire Strikes Back on Bespin City, right? I love that all of these background characters in Star Wars have a name that, and there are people that are like, I know that name. Anyway, Hondo Ohnaka, they limited this comic to 5,500 copies. It comes with a commemorative coin and a little action figure. The set is available at Disneyland's Galaxy's Edge Park, Disney's Hollywood Studios, and their Shop Disney site. I went to the Shop Disney site. You can still order it if that's your thing. I think it's $35. So they haven't sold out of all 5,500 yet. The comic has a new variant cover, but to be clear, it is a reprint of issue 4 of Galaxy's Edge that was originally published back in July of 2019 by writer Ethan Sachs, artist Will Sliney. And that name sounds like he should be up there with Thigrin Dan and the Modal Nodes playing their jizz whalers. Everybody know that there are characters in Star Wars that are musicians that are called jizz whalers. I'm not making that up. Just jumping in. Just got finished watching Mortal Kombat 2. Hope I didn't miss much. You didn't, and I'll talk about Mortal Kombat 2 a little at the end of the show when I'm drawing. I thought it was pretty fun. Just real quick. May the 4th Doctor be with you. 4th Doctor's awesome. 4th Doctor's awesome. mainly an animated character. Yeah, I mean, that's fair. That's fair. If you're a big fan of Star Wars or something, this is relatively exclusive, still available. I thought I'd put it on people's radar. I love Star Wars. I'm definitely going to see Mandalorian and Grogu. I know that the buzz is only average at best, but even though season 3 wasn't that awesome, I loved seasons 1 and 2. I like the characters. As long as it's just a fun adventure movie, I'll probably be okay with that. I like the character quite a bit. I like Mandalorian and Grogu. So, yeah. Chris, Comic Troopers' favorite space pirates. Mine would be Harlock. Harlock is a classic. Starjammers, very good. You know, I've only seen the first episode. It was definitely a case where I was like, okay, I like that this has a bit of a visual style, that it's its own. I'll stick with it. A little confused because the Star Wars shows jump back and forth in the timeline all the time, so it takes me a minute to figure out sometimes where something is set. Plus, I never watched Clone Wars or Rebels. So every once in a while, some of those supporting characters, I'm like, okay, that doesn't mean a lot to me. Like, for instance, in Maul, I know where in the timeline it is. You know, he survived getting cut in half. He survived being a little crazy, and he's running a criminal organization. Got that. I do get that. I don't know why he has a Mandalorian working for him. That one confuses me a little. But I'll probably finish it off. You know what was interesting, though, that you bring this up? The Acolyte, which I think got savaged by social media, not so much by critics, but social media was like really rough on it. I liked The Acolyte, actually. It wasn't perfect all the time, but the fight scenes were some of the best in Star Wars. And I thought that the villain was pretty damn interesting. One of the most complex villains Star Wars has created. I like The Acolyte, and it has now jumped into Disney's top 10 most watched this week, which is very interesting and telling to me. I go, oh, look at that. It has legs. You know, it came back. It came back once people stopped sort of shit-talking it. I go, that's very interesting to me. When people can just sort of organically come across it on their own, they're really enjoying this. It's just completely organic now. So, oh, interesting. Okay, see, yeah, so I missed that in Clone Wars. There's little beats like that I don't always get, but you figure out if you go along with the show. He was cut in half real bad. At the same time, I'm willing to go with it with the dark side of the Force. I'm willing to go with that. I think that people are just, it's just sort of a random thing that's happening. I think it's legit just word of mouth. People going, no, the Acolyte's pretty good. Mike says he wished that they had done it as a police procedural with Jedi. I could see that, but I do think that, now it's been several months, and I wasn't thinking about it. There's a Jedi character played by a South Korean actor, the guy that was in both seasons of Squid Games as the main character, and I forget the actor's name, but he's really interesting in this because he's not. I think he's sort of what they were going for with Qui-Gon Jinn, where he's sort of a little more on the gray than pure good, but I don't think Qui-Gon quite came across that way. Jeannie's cat Cairo is, for some reason, she's been putting on Star Wars, and Cairo goes right up to the TV and watches it just like an inch from the screen, which I think is adorable. He was good, and so was the actor, I want to say his name's Manny Jacinto, that played the bad guy. That was really, really cool. Like, those two were really, really damn good. They were really damn good. Thanks for pointing that out. Okay, his name apparently is Lee Jung-jae. Anyway, Star Wars. I could go down a Star Wars hole for a while. There's all sorts of things to talk about. Hey, this happened this morning. I think this is super cool. You may remember we were talking about this on the news when, people were pushing for this to be a permanent thing and it getting approved and everything. Well, today was the day, folks. Earlier today, I believe it was at noon Eastern Time, New York officially renamed a portion of Essex Street, the one at the intersection of Delancey Street, as Jack Kirby Way. Not just a promotional thing for, a day or a month or anything. They've permanently renamed it Jack Kirby Way, named after the king of comics. A great, great bit of acknowledgement to such a key person in the medium that we all love. This is the neighborhood where Jack Kirby, born Jacob Kurtzberg, where he grew up, Lower East Side, LES. It's a few steps away from where he lived at 147 Essex Street. And I believe the building has been changed. I don't think the building is the same as the one when he was a little kid. But anyway, the location inspired the fictional Yancey Street in the Fantastic Four comics, where the Thing is from. Jack Kirby, they say famously co-created. I'd go so far as to say he probably created that himself, but who knows? Who knows? Stan may have come up with the name. And I'm right, it was noon. So the unveiling took place today at noon, early, and it had a bunch of the Kirby family there. His daughter, Lisa, was there, and his grandkids. We've got Jillian, Tracy, and Jeremy all here. Jim Steranko was there giving a speech about the history and importance of Jack Kirby. And that's fair because Steranko is a comic book historian, as well as being, an artist and a self-promoter and a writer. He is a comic book historian. So that's pretty cool. Oh, man. Ditko definitely deserves acknowledgement, too. Anyway, it is easier to do something like this now, but hey, I do sort of feel like better late than never. Hopefully someday some kid goes like, who is Jack Kirby? And, people can go, I've got so much to tell you. Ever read Tom Scioli's Jack Kirby book? I have. It is fun. I believe I talked about it on the show when it came out. It's the only criticism I have of it is that there's so much to Jack Kirby's life that it jumps around like, vignette to vignette, as compared to having enough room for scenes to really play out in depth. But there's so much to say about Jack Kirby's life, and it all, you run out of real estate real fast. That's the only thing. Yeah, I don't think Mark Evanier is in great health these days, to be honest. I'm pretty sure that I heard that he's got some health concerns, which would make sense. He's getting up there in years. He's a bigger guy. But I don't know that for sure, but I'm pretty sure that I did hear about that. It would have been awesome if he could be there. I'm sure he would have if he could have. Steranko, I could have shown you a picture. He is in his suit that he's always in. The gray turtleneck, the big sunglasses, the big pompadour wig that like adds a foot to his height. It does blazer. Yeah. Jack Kirby should have a biopic. Totally agree. Either a prestige series on like HBO or a movie. And I say a prestige series because like he does have a really big life where he did a lot, and it would be hard to capture all of that in a movie. Like you could do a movie about just his World War II days or just his Golden Age pioneering days, but then all the stuff that he created throughout the Silver and Bronze Age and stuff too. And then you talk about his personal life with his family. Come on now, look at it. Yeah. Animated is interesting idea, actually. If you could get like a style that sort of honored Jack's style. Yeah, exactly. Oh, Evanier posted that he did go to New York. So maybe could he have been at the... Let me just do something real fast. Let me see if I missed something. So... And okay, Mark Evanier seems to have posted on his personal blog on Friday about this. I initially booked on Spirit Airlines, but then a day or two later, Spirit Airlines mysteriously cancels my reservations and refunded my money. Well, we've all heard that, yeah, Spirit Airlines went out of business all of a sudden. So maybe he was there, and I just didn't see him in a photo or anything like that. Well, that's fantastic to hear. I don't know if it sounds like he did go. But I didn't see any photos of him. I'm looking real quick through like photos from today to see if there's anything of Mark Evanier, but I don't see any. I'm glad to hear that he was well enough that he went. That's really awesome. Mark Evanier, if you don't know, beyond being a comic book writer, publisher, and editor and stuff of his own, he got his start in comics by being an assistant to Jack Kirby. So Mark Evanier is also a comic book historian, and he knows Jack's history very well because he worked for Jack and Ross for several years. Yeah. But I don't know who would right now provide a good actor for Jack Kirby. That's a tricky one. So we'll just say Glenn Powell. I think if you could jump back 20 years, maybe even more, maybe like 30 years. Yeah, maybe about 30 years, that actor Ray Wise from Twin Peaks, among other things, I think Ray Wise had the look and the demeanor and the chops that he could have done a very interesting take on Jack Kirby and played him like for his whole life. See, Eugene Levy, I think, is just a little too old to do the whole movie. Like, anyway. I don't know who would be good right now. All right. Just wanted to talk about something positive. Next time I'm in New York, I'm going to swing by and get a picture, take a selfie at Jack Kirby Way. I think it's really cool. Alan Ritchson is about twice Jack Kirby's height, so I don't know if that quite makes sense, but yes. We'll keep going with the news. Quick thing for DC. I've got a few DC bits. We're about to get into the meat of the show. But DC announced a new Superman crossover event for the summer. It's going to be called Kingdom of Zod, and it involves their titles Supergirl, Action Comics, Superman Unlimited, and just plain Superman. That's in August and September. So 4 titles, 2 months. Let's see, as long as it's not Jared Leto. Oh, God forbid. Good Lord. I don't know if you could pay me to see that. That would really be depressing. Oh, just wanted to say, Rad Star says that they attended. I attended, and there were cosplayers. It's fantastic. 4 characters there, and Dr. Doom. I saw a bunch of photos. There were cosplayers playing a lot of different Kirby characters, including X-Men, stuff like that. It was great. It was great. Andy, I love it. You're right. Meryl Streep could do anything. Give it to her. Give it to her. Martin Sheen. He's just too old, though. You got to get a guy that's young enough that can play Kirby when he was a young man and going off to World War II and stuff. Like, not just like his last few years, right? I don't know. I'll continue with this DC news. But, of course, obviously, Kirby created a lot of great DC stuff. Where would DC be without Jack Kirby? You know, if they didn't have Darkseid, for instance, to say nothing of Etrigan the Demon, and I don't know, didn't he co-create Cobra, I want to say, the villain? All sorts of interesting characters, though, with the new gods. The story. What's the story? It's going to involve the new country of El Caldero. If you don't know, that's a country that has come to prominence because a gigantic kryptonite meteor landed in their country. So, like, they're a big source of kryptonite. Lots of villains will pay big money for that. Anyway, the country is going to get upended in a military coup. It's also going to have the surprise return of General Zod. It's like, yeah, wasn't he dead? Anyway, it's going to lead to the entire super family coming together against the new challenge. Hopefully it's fun. Hopefully it's fun. Tilda Swinton played 3 different characters in Suspiria, and yeah, she vanishes into all of them. Just amazing. I don't remember when Zod died. I mean, I remember when he died in the John Byrne run. Superman was forced to kill him, and he kind of went a little insane and flew off into space for a while. But I don't know if that's still... I don't think that's the continuity of this current world. I want to talk about this. It's what I put in the thumbnail. This is bonkers. This is just wild. Let's talk about it. So, I previously reported on this show about how a new publisher, Argent Comics, or maybe they're called Argent Press. I should have double checked. Sorry. But Argent, they're printing a high-end edition of Batman the Killing Joke by Alan Moore, Brian Bolland. Great comic. Got it. Then I think that I said that they were publishing both versions that were colored, with the original wild colors and the new, more muted, realistic Brian Bolland colors. And that they had applications to potentially buy it. They hadn't revealed the price at that time, but I speculated that it would be big. I never imagined it would be this big. It is bonkers. So, the comic will cost $17,409.75. Previously mentioned this, but it is limited to 47 copies. Whoo! $17,000 for a reprint. That is something. If I had $17,000 to blow on comics, it wouldn't be on this. I would definitely get something special in a back issue, get like a 0.1 Amazing Fantasy 15 or something like that. I don't know, Dave. I think that there's a lot of people out there with money that just speculate. I think that that's where it'll go, but we'll see. The absurdly high price tag, in part, is due to what they're making, to be clear. Super time-consuming process. They're printing these pages on Geely, which is pretty much the highest-end printing process you can have done and can only be done on one side. So they're creating 2 pages, and they've got like a proprietary process to affix them together to become one double-sided Geely print. Okay, got it. They've also got this, leather and plastic carrying case made to look like the camera Joker uses in the story, so it's thematically appropriate. There's like a viewing lens on it that you can remove. Fine, I guess. Maybe that's worth $100, I'll say. Something like that, maybe more. But it's not a real camera. It should be a real camera at this price, just to be clear. It should also be a digital camera. Argent has applications. You don't just order this on the website. You fill out an application. See, applications are open for the Avant-Garde edition to get approved to buy one. That is some bougie shit. You will get Turok #1. I think that West Coast Dave Vengers has cornered the market. I think he's cornered the market. He's got a lot. Oh, the 75 cents. Tell you what, if you want to start a crowdfunding campaign, I'm not in a great financial place, but I would be willing to donate up to 10 cents towards that. Sell one issue and you're set for life. It's just such an absurdly high price for a comic. And it's like it's creating the artificiality of rarity by saying we will make 47 copies. But that's not the same as, say, a comic that once had millions printed and now there's only 75 copies left. Something like, an old Golden Age book I'm referring to. It is, I believe it's normal comic sized or slightly bigger. I forget, but it's sorry. the target demo is the ultra wealthy. And I feel like it slightly disrespects what comics are. Alan Moore has said that he is disappointed with the business side of comics, not what comics can be creatively, but the business side of comics, because comics were originally created for the poor and the working class. They were cheap, disposable entertainment. Therefore, you could reach an audience and try to elevate the material and do wildly entertaining things and possibly have a higher level of discourse and big ideas and stuff. And I love that. But yeah, this just breaks. I agree with a lot of, first of all, what Alan Moore said. I agree with a lot of that. That was the goal of comics. I think that's part of why comics are still so successful in some other countries, because they are created as disposable, affordable entertainment. And by pushing into just exclusive collectability, you keep shrinking an audience. Who is ready to rock and roll and party every day? I think all of us, Steve. Thank you for lightening the mood. That's awesome. I believe that they are all signed also by Brian Bolland, if I'm remembering correctly. Will even one of the 47 copies printed ever get read? God, I would certainly hope so. I love the idea, just to be clear. I love the idea of getting to read a comic that's been printed on Geely paper and that style. That sounds like an interesting experience. But I don't know how you get to $17,000. And I'd be more than fine with just keeping it to, let's get some classic covers and make a Geely print of it. That, cool. I'll pay a decent amount for a nice Geely print of good art. Why 47 copies? That's their whole gimmick, to be clear. They will make apparently future things like this, and they will always keep it to 47. 47 apparently is the atomic number for, I think it's gold. I don't know if it's gold or silver, to be honest. It's whatever argent translates to in its base Latin. Is argent for, like, atomic number? Silver. Okay, silver in Latin is argum. Anyway, it's silver, and the number is 47, something like that. Atomic number for grand theft larceny. Yeah, thank you, people. Argos. Argo, fuck yourself. Speaking of 47, if you want something cool, 47, read up on the history of the 47 Ronin. Just an incredible true story from Japan's history, the 47 Ronin. But anyway, 47 is the atomic number for fished in. I don't know what else to say. I think we're all on the same page. That is an astronomical number. I sincerely never really imagined it being something that would be a lot over $1,000. And to get all the way up to like 17,000, I was blown away by that. I go, well, you are catering to a very specific demographic, and I think it defeats the spirit of comics. I really do. We're going to keep going. This is another DC related piece, the opposite end. Instead of super expensive, we're talking about super damaged. This is a screenshot of 3 different stacks of DC comics coming out this week. And if you can't tell, they all have really bad spine ticks, all of them. So it sounds like the DC Comics coming out this coming Wednesday, everywhere will all, the ones with non-card stock covers, to be clear, just the regular covers, they all will have spine damage from what reports from comic book stores across the country. They all have spine damage. DC has been made aware of the damage and they notified retailers. Here is their quote. Thank you to everyone who has made us aware of manufacturing defects that occurred on Absolute Batman 20, Absolute Martian Manhunter 11, and Barbara Gordon Breakout number 1. At the current stage, we are releasing these issues as originally intended with the existing copies. So please feel free to sell them beginning on May 13th. As in, they're not taking returns or anything. They're saying, no, sell them. We are investigating the defects and putting together plans for amelioration, and will provide a follow-up update early next week. Thank you for your patience as we work to resolve this as quickly as possible. We empathize with the position this situation has put you in, and we appreciate your continued support. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. Ugh. Look, personally, doesn't affect me that much. I don't really plan on getting any of my comics graded or flipping them per se. At the same time, I don't really want to buy a damaged comic, but I get it to read them. I get it to read them first, maybe sell them as an entire lot someday, but that's a distant secondary concern for me personally. Yeah, I would say that what it means is that if somebody gets a non-damaged copy somehow, that is probably going to be worth a lot, actually, just to be clear. It's a very popular series, very popular right now, high print run, but a copy in a great condition would be very rare, apparently. So, yeah. Speculation as to what's going on here, it ranges. There's an article on Bleeding Cool that's collected a lot of comments that different stores nationwide have posted on their social media pages. Some say that it's a printer error that they've also seen happen with Image as compared to shipping. They say that it's a printer error. Some say that DC has possibly switched to a cheaper paper that just more easily bends and cracks. I don't know. I don't know the answer yet. I have to see it in person before I really know anything, and I haven't seen it yet. I am having a fantastic time reading this book. I am sincerely enjoying it. Someone on eBay labeling it as unique and selling it for $1,000. They easily could. Yeah, I won't be surprised to see that. If somebody, because there's probably a few that didn't get damaged somehow, but it sounds like the vast majority are going to be. So if you go to your store, you know, it wasn't just their shipment. You could try to return it or not buy it or something, but just letting you know, it sounds like everybody's going to be dealing with the same issue. So it just is what it is. But somebody out there probably will find like a 9.8 or something. I don't know. I just don't know enough about the modern printing process to be able, I'd love to be able to sort of speculate, but you know, maybe 20, 30 years ago, I might have had a better idea, but not now. These are not reprints, to be clear. These are the brand new issues that are coming out this Wednesday. Misprint, undamaged, Absolute Martian Manhunter 11, $5,000. I think we are getting a lot of speculators in comics right now. And to be clear, I have no issue with people focusing on the collectability, hunting down key back issues, even getting some of their favorite comics graded just so that they're protecting something that they absolutely love. It also does make sense to me if you get something very rare like a Golden Age book to grade it, to at least protect it, right? Because you can get a reader copy, but that's different. It's not the aspect that interests me, but I don't begrudge people for the collecting aspect or you know, buying and selling key issues. it does bum me out when speculators are just trying to find something with perceived rarity and flip it. I don't think that's good for the industry. But the industry is kind of growing right now, and it's natural that some of these problems arise with, more reading. I see a lot of similarities right now to the early and mid 90s. I see a lot of similarities right now, but I also see a lot of fantastic comics coming out. So, I've overall, I'm fairly hopeful for the industry, and hopefully we've learned at least a few lessons from what went wrong 30 years ago. Going to keep going, but I wanted to at least put this out just so that, like, say you went into your comic book shop and you saw these on the shelf and you were like, why didn't you return these or something like that? Well, it's because everybody's dealing with the exact same problem. It's not just your store. All right, folks, let's talk about fisting. Phrasing. All right. Rick Remender and Steve Epting are creating a new creator-owned book. It says that it starts as crime and it turns into a horror book. It's called Hammerfist. Here's a great variant cover by Dan Panosian. I'm always curious about what Rick Remender creates. I've really loved especially two of his fairly recent book. I thought that Grommets was both hilarious and moving, and I think that Escape is absolutely brilliant. Anyway, this giant generator book is described as a blend of Reservoir Dogs and The Evil Dead. Well, those are two things I like. Plus, I like the creators. I'm very intrigued. Here's the official description. In Hammerfist, readers meet Mike Denton, a dirtbag hitman, junkie, and absentee father. He spent his life chasing the easy fix, drugs, cheap sex, murder for money, all while failing the one person who still believes he can be better, his daughter. Now, on the eve of Black Noon, an ancient darkness that erases the light in all things, Gutter awaken a supernatural weapon powered only by love and fight his way through the living embodiment of evil to save her. This is the story of an unredeemable killer forced to do the one thing he's avoided his entire life, stand for something other than himself. Good. I like stories that force somebody to go through a situation where it's the only way it's going to change them. You can get fisted. That's my free marketing idea for Rick. He's allowed to use that. Get Fisted. August 26th. It's got variant covers by a lot of people that have worked with Rick on previous books. Jerome Pena, Nick Klein, Dan Panosian, Daniel Acuna, Andrew Robinson. Very cool. Seasons is interesting. I need to catch up on that. I need to finish Sacrificers. But pretty much all of Rick's books I either like to love. There's very, very few that I'm like, it's not for me. I think Steve Epting is an incredible artist. I think he got a lot of justifiable acclaim when he worked with Ed Brubaker on Captain America, and I hope that this book is good. I would like it to be good. Favorite Rick Remender book? Not an easy question, because I've liked so many. I think that Uncanny X-Force and Fear Agent stand out a lot. I like Low quite a bit. Right now, it's definitely Escape. Right now, Escape is setting a very high bar. If Escape ends in a way that satisfies me, that could end up becoming my personal favorite Rick Remender book. Go deep with Hammerfist. Yeah. One fist. Black Science. Last Days of American Crime. Underrated. Yep. Very, very good. Very, very good. I think it was made into a movie that's not so good. Oh, and Deadly Class. Deadly Class is really good. Grommets was fantastic. Really, really cool. Just 1980 set skateboarders. Feels so real. So real. My favorites are Deadly Class, Seven to Eternity. That's a good one. Black Science, and Escape. Deadly Class did have a great adaptation. It's really too bad that it couldn't continue. Very, very good. Black Science and Deadly Class are great. Death and Glory with Bengal has some really cool artwork. I like that. I don't know. There's so many that are good. Black Science for you. Yep. Yeah, but I guess nobody else is agreeing with me on Uncanny X-Force, but I sincerely think Uncanny X-Force, fantastic, has a beginning, middle, and end, which is something you rarely get in the serialized ongoing superheroes. And I feel like a lot of the characters end up in a different place at the end than they were in the beginning, even if that doesn't get completely honored by future writers to use Wolverine and Deadpool. I felt like that book in and of itself really treated them with a lot of respect. Oh, Frankencastle, forget about it. Hey, Agent Venom is also really fun that he did with Tony Moore. Really, really fun. I guess Napalm Lullaby, I loved the premise and stuff, but I didn't love the ending. So that would possibly be lower on my list. But yeah. Have I been reading Thundercats Silverhawks? No, I haven't. It wasn't really either property was something I was super into as a kid. I started Thundercats and I did like a lot of what Declan Shalvey was doing with the story, but I still didn't connect with the characters that much on a nostalgia level, and it was going at a certain pace that I was like, I'd enjoy this more as a trade paperback. I'm not getting quite enough momentum in single issues. Anyway, I loved Silverhawks as a kid. A lot of my friends did. Also, Tiger Sharks. Never saw that one, I have to admit. But seriously, do you think we can get a live-action Thundercats soon now that we have He-Man? Hard to say. He-Man was a lot bigger than Thundercats or Silverhawks. A lot bigger. He-Man had toys and a longer running cartoon. So it definitely got into the public perception in a much bigger way. But Thundercats is a possibility. I think it's a possibility. We'll see. Strange Girl's good. I like Strange Girl. All right, I'm going to keep going, though. Seems like a lot of Rick Remender fans. Death Vigil. I don't know how many people remember Death Vigil, but Top Cow revealed that Stjepan Sejic's Death Vigil will return. Yes, return. With a new issue #1 on August 5th. Just the day before me birthday. The comic, it blends action and horror, okay? I said horror, and that's sort of true, but I actually meant to say humor. Excuse me. I did really mean to say humor. It's got tongue-in-cheek stuff to it. It follows these dead warriors, where maybe undead would be more fair, but they're called Death Knights, and they battle necromancers and specifically these ravenous elder gods. So it's really cool. First run was at Top Cow back in 2014 through 2015. So it's definitely been a while since this book was around. This is continuing and evolving the story. It will like catch people up. The first run, though, was when Sejic was breaking in. Since then, he's had a lot of success with both mainstream books like Harleen and creator-owned projects like Sunstone. Oh, Mike, you got all the killer jokes tonight, man. Tongue out of cheek. I'm so jealous. I'm so jealous that you got to deliver that. Stjepan's amazing. Frequently jumps in here on the live chats. Really, really talented artist. I believe specifically draws digitally with an older version of Photoshop. I'm pretty sure he said that it's, an older, pre-Creative Cloud version that he likes to work with. Anyway, just really, really beautiful artwork, dynamic, beautiful people, great stuff that he does with color and lighting. It looks really cool. Kirkman is doing a cover for Youngblood 100. I definitely did not come across that. I'll look into that and talk about it next week if I can find any sort of news or images, because that would give me an excuse to talk about the original art by Robert that I have. That would be fun. Tongue Out of Cheek Comics is a great name for a company. I just thought I'd put this on people's radar. It's going to be great art, really fun, cool concept. Might be something you want to check out. All right, hold on. People are saying, give me 1 second. Oh, I see. This just broke a few hours ago here. All right. Hold on. I'll talk about this real quick. We're gonna remove this, and I'm going to add something different. Is that showing? Oops, I don't want the ad. So this is just a few hours ago on Hollywood Reporter. This is a cover by Robert, not by Liefeld. Oh my God. That is crazy. Robert Kirkman, blah, 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 blah. Mind behind Walking Dead. He's behind a variant cover for Youngblood 100. Comic is a milestone. 34 years after he launched the book. There's a different cover by Mark Silvestri. Oh, did he ask like the... he probably asked the founders that he gets along with to do one. Okay. Which is apparently just Silvestri and Kirkman. Kirkman isn't a founder, but he is one of the partners. That's good for you, Robert. That's funny. That's funny. All right. Kudos. Robert wanted to be a comic book artist and has he made a whole comic. It's a pretty big one that'll never get shown or released anywhere. It was called Between the Ropes, or was it called? No, maybe it was called Beyond the Mat. It's whichever one the wrestling documentary title isn't. Anyway, it basically followed these pro wrestlers behind the scenes, and then he repurposed the characters and stories for Capes. That's coming out now. I've got it somewhere, and I also like to bug Robert and get like sketches when we hang out and stuff. Specifically, I remember he was so excited to be doing a Sleepwalker book for Marvel's Epic imprint. It was like they were going to bring back their Epic line, and he was going to do a Sleepwalker comic. And then that sort of fell apart, and it just became a single anthology issue with like a single Sleepwalker story. But I've got a bunch of drawings of Sleepwalker by Robert. I've got Battle Pope drawings by him. It's funny. Oh, really? Eric Larson did one as well. Good. Okay. I don't think that Rob has a great relationship with Todd McFarlane or Jim Lee. I don't know. I don't know what his relationship is with Valentino either. I think that one's sort of soured, but I don't want it to be. I'm just going off of what I remember. Things could have changed since the last time this stuff got reported on, which is going back many years at this point. All right. That was fun. Oh, yeah, that's right. You did do that, Andy. The Young Ancient One story. That is going back in time, isn't it? I think Carrie Randolph drew something in that, too. You know what? Give me just a sec here. I really feel like I just need to use the bathroom real quick. I'll be right back. I'll play something for you guys that'll take about 30 seconds here, and then I'll be right back.
Vanessa, are you ready to go out yet? Have I ever told you that when I was a young man, my father took me into the city to see a marching band? He said, "Son, when you grow up, will you be the savior of the broken, the beaten, and the damned?" Vanessa.
Okay, I'm back. Thank you for your patience, folks. I know that didn't make for a great show, but it's a good reason. I'm focusing on drinking as much water as I can, try not to get dehydrated, and all of a sudden I was like, there's no way I'm going to do this show for another hour or so. So I just had to do that. Let's get back to the news. All right, more creator-owned stuff. These are 3 different pages, just to be clear. See these white breaks? Those are breaks in pages. We are talking about a comic by Sean Gordon Murphy. He's written and is currently drawing The Last Driver. That's a new ongoing series that's going to debut in August at Image Comics. Very, very cool. Let's see. So it's described as having shades of the dystopian vibes of Escape from New York, great John Carpenter movie, and the Chase Across America cult classic Vanishing Point. Gotta admit, haven't seen Vanishing Point. Maybe it's an oversight. So I don't know that touchstone, Vanishing Point. The Cyberpunk action comic will tell the story in a landscape format. So it's going to be read horizontally. You're going to take your comic, twist it, and read it this way. Which I've definitely seen done here and there, but not in an ongoing capacity. At the same time, I definitely think it's a super valid way to show comics. I think, if anything, this harkens back to the way a lot of comics were presented in comic strips before comic books, with their different sort of magazine dimensions, switch things up. 8.5 out of 10. That's good. I know. Anytime Sean Gordon Murphy wants to draw cars, I am in. Here's a description, an official description. The story is set in an America where, as technology advanced, cities began creating the grid, a robotic transportation system that not only made cars obsolete, it made them illegal. Reminds me of how cars started to make pedestrians and horses the danger in streets. And here in America, we started giving cars and car drivers more and more permissions. Anyway, against this backdrop, an outlaw named Clutch has no choice but to get behind the wheel one more time. What starts out as a race to save his granddaughter's life quickly turns into a rebellion against technology, fascism, and the future of a divided America. Hey, cool. Racing cars. I can't help but think of how good Mad Max Fury Road was, which felt like the cars almost never stopped. And even when they did, things were going on. I can't wait to see this. I can't wait to see it. A driver named Clutch? That is the name of one of the original G.I. Joes. something Bronze Age Nerd and myself are both fans of. And by the way, Bronze also has a comic book channel. He does a live show also on Monday nights. That's going to start in an hour and 45 minutes. Disney, The Grid, you want us to sue? I think that that's a generic enough name that you'd be hard-pressed to keep that. The Last Chase with Lee Majors? I've never heard of that. I've never heard of that. I don't know, but he definitely is great at drawing cars, and there's a great scene in Batman White Knight. I don't know which series or issue it was, but it shows the Batcave, and it's got all the different Batmobiles. It looks so damn good. Yeah, I know. I mess around with you and Bigby in the chat. Sometimes I'm telling the truth, and sometimes I'm lying. I call jokes lies and lies jokes. I think this looks really cool. I love the art of Sean Gordon Murphy. It's the first time I remember really noticing his stuff was in the book he did with Grant Morrison, Joe the Barbarian. I just loved the visuals, and so I've tried to stay up to date. You know, I backed, for instance, when he did a Kickstarter for Zorro set in the modern day, Zorro driving around in a car for no reason other than it looks cool. I enjoyed a bunch of White Knight. Really cool. I don't know if I've ever actually listened to him speak. Yeah, I think that there's something very cool about the landscape format that it, for lack of a better term, it is cinematic. You know, there's something very open about a landscape view. It feels big. It feels big. Tokyo Ghost, another great book from Rick Remender. Was there a landscape issue in New X-Men? I could believe that, but it doesn't come to mind off the top of my head. Gonna keep moving. I love comic book history, obviously, or I wouldn't do comic tropes, right? But this speaks to me. Mad Cave Studios will publish Ruth Roche, The Phantom Hand of Comics, a graphic biography of Ruth Roche, a comics writer, an editor, and business partner of Jerry Iger, as in Eisner and Iger Studios fame. So Roche was a writer and an editor in the golden age of comics. She joined Iger's studio shortly after Will Eisner left, I want to say maybe 1940. It was renamed Roche Iger Studios in 1945. And she continued working in comics up until the 50s with all of the Joseph McCarthy Senate hearings and, you know, the crackdown and censorship of comics. But Roche is an influential and important figure. And this biography is going to be released October 13th. Paperback for $19.99, hardcover for $29.99. Just thought I'd put that on people's radar. An important person that published a lot of successful comics. Roche Iger Studios would come up with prepackaged, basically most commonly 8-page comics that they sold to different publishers. So they worked with a wide variety of publishers. They just ran a studio full of artists and writers. And, there were obviously very few women or really other minorities. Like there were very few Black people. So when you come across some of these people that worked in the golden age of comics, you know that they probably had to work extra hard to get that work back then. And it usually meant that they were very talented pioneers. So, yeah. Oh, okay. People are saying that there was a 2001 annual of New X-Men drawn by Linneo Francis Yu that was horizontal, like from the previous news story. Very cool. So just wanted to put that on people's radar. I think that sounds really interesting. And if there was a publisher that ever wanted to move into doing biographies of artists and comic creators, but told as a comic book biography, that would be basically a subgenre that I personally would be very interested in. I like biographical comics. I can think of quite a few really interesting ones. Earlier tonight, we were talking about Tom Scioli's Jack Kirby. Some others that are good. There's, for just biographical comics, Box Brown has done biographies of the creator of Tetris, of the life of Andre the Giant. There's a book by, I want to say his name is Jeremy Case, about his father as the detective that got the Green River Killer to confess. That's a fascinating biography. Yeah, there's just so many. I don't know where to go. I haven't seen that one. I'd be curious to see it. I don't expect it to be especially deep, so I'm probably going to wait for streaming. But I'd see it. Anyway, I like biographical comics quite a bit. I also like when I go to, say, a small press expo, if somebody does a biographical comic that's maybe more humorous, but about their life, I always find those really, there's a passion, I guess I want to say. There's a passion behind that tends to shine through and captures my imagination. All right, I've got other news. Comic book whiskey. Comic book whiskey. I have not, and I should. So, for the 35th anniversary of the Rocketeer film, that was 1991 apparently, IDW is partnering to release a themed whiskey. Actually, several whiskeys, to be clear. IDW Publishing is partnering with Official Cellar, that's the name of the whiskey manufacturer, to release the Rocketeer American whiskey, available exclusively direct-to-consumer at Official Cellar's site. According to the official press release, fans and whiskey enthusiasts can pick up a limited release of Rocketeer American Whiskey Wheated Bourbon priced at $65, while signed bottles, autographed by Billy Campbell, who plays stunt pilot Cliff Secord in the film, are available for $125. And the High Rye Bourbon is offered at $55 with signed pricing at $115. So if you're really into both whiskey and the Rocketeer, you might like this. I like but do not love whiskey. Generally, I'm more of a clear liquor guy as compared to a brown liquor guy. Yes, get blasted with the Rocketeer and then get fisted with Hammerfist. The 1991 Rocketeer movie is a blast. Who did that? Who's the director? It's not coming to me. Joe something. He worked at ILM. He directed The Rocketeer. He directed Captain America, The First Avenger. I think he directed Jurassic Park 3. Somebody help me out. I want to say it's Joe something, but it's not coming to me. He's good. He's creative. Underrated director, in my opinion. IDW previously did partner to do a food thing. They partnered with Jade City Foods to make hot sauces based on Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees. Oh, thanks everybody. Johnston. Okay. Thank you all. Joe Johnson. Yeah, those whiskey sales will be sky high, or you'll feel sky high when you drink it. Look, I do think it would be fun to get an autographed one. If I was going to spend a bunch for a whiskey, I might as well get the autographed one because I'm going to drink it and then I'll have an empty bottle. Might as well have it signed, I guess. I don't know. It depends on what that's worth to you. Oh, you only caught it for the first time recently. It's always got to be somebody's first time. It's good. It's really good. And hopefully it brings you to discover Dave Stevens, an artist gone too soon, creator of just a great pulp retro comic in a time where people weren't really at the time leaning into World War II era pulp adventure stuff. I think that these days you can come across that kind of an idea here and there in comics, but when Dave Stevens did it with The Rocketeer, it felt so authentic and unique. But I don't know. I'm not a massive fan of whiskey, so I probably am not going to get this. If it was a gin, I definitely would. If it was a gin. But I don't know if that fits the aesthetic as much. American whiskey makes plenty of sense. Fun idea. Here's a crossover that looks really cool. Oh, I bet it's beautiful. I haven't seen that in person. The Artisan Edition. It's affordable? I'll take a look. Thanks, Mike. Image / Top Cow and Dynamite are going to cross over their characters with 2 one-shots from their respective publishers. We've got Witchblade Vampirella #1. That's from Top Cow by Marguerite Bennett and Laura Braga. And then Vampirella Witchblade #1 by Erica Schultz and Valentina Pinti. The first one by Top Cow is coming up first. And it says, Detective Sarah Pizzini has seen her share of things that go bump in the night, but nothing like this. When a mutated vampire descends on the city, leaving a trail of blood and chaos, even Sarah is pushed to her limits. Just as hope begins to fade, help arrives in the form of a legendary hunter of the undead, Vampirella. But with Sarah already infected by the creature's bite, time is running out. Will Vampirella be forced to stake first, ask questions later? Probably not, but I don't know how they'll solve it. The characters previously crossed over back in 2003, to be clear. That was during Witchblade's first run, prior to the 2024 reboot. And Vampirella was then at Harris Comics. So that was that sort of relatively brief window between the creepy or Warren Publishing era and the current Dynamite era. Yeah. So it has been done before, but not by these creators. Could be a lot of fun. I think that they're characters that fit together. You know, beautiful women that deal with the supernatural. I think that that makes sense as a crossover. You can find a villain that makes sense for both of them. Oh, I'm excited about this. Hasn't launched quite yet, but it's about to. So, this past Friday on YouTube, Tezuka Productions released the first trailer for the upcoming feature-length documentary about Osamu Tezuka, titled Tezuka, God of Manga. I look back and I'm glad I did an episode on Tezuka in Japan at his museum. I wish I did better because Tezuka is just so important. Such a groundbreaking, innovative creator, but also a workaholic. He wasn't a perfect person. He probably worked way too much. But anyway, the documentary project is going to have a Kickstarter crowdfunding campaign. There's a Notify Me Now page on Kickstarter. It hasn't launched yet. Don't know when the date is that they're launching that, but they are. So they've already filmed a bunch of it, but they want to do some more. So the documentary has already interviewed some really important people. These are just some of them that I'm including, ones that I hope people will recognize either the name or the work. Katsuhiro Otomo, Akira, Ryoko Ikeda, Rose of Versailles, Naoki Urasawa, my favorite, Monster, 20th Century Boys, a million other books. Go Nagai, Devilman, Cutie Honey, Mazinger, Fred Schott, basically the first big prominent manga historian to bring it to like the West. Anyway, and once funded, they've got plans to interview more people for it, including Americans like Paul Pope. Very, very cool. And Tezuka has influenced so many and continues to. I lived in Japan at the Tezuka Museum. I got into an argument with a Florida man in the drawing room with the Tezuka animatronic. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that you got into an argument. I've been there. I will say, gorgeous, wonderful museum. Really, really beautiful museum. And I think it does capture the scope of his career. You couldn't drill down on everything, but that's why they've got rotating exhibits on one floor. And great museum. Really interesting creator. Over the course of his 40-year career, he died not young, but way younger than you should. Tezuka created more than 700 volumes of manga, encompassing an estimated 150,000 pages of drawings. He also produced another 200,000 pages of storyboards, because in addition to being a manga pioneer, he was also an anime pioneer. Just wrote and drew like crazy. Left behind so much, and even today, it's still providing like new stuff based on what he created. For instance, Search and Destroy is an updated reimagining of I always forget how to pronounce it exactly, but like Dororo, Search and Destroy Tezuka, Doro Hedoro is what I was trying to say. Blech. Definitely I am not, although I would be more than open to talking about his influence. I don't know what I could add that somebody like Fred Schott hasn't already, but I am a fan of Tezuka. I've been to his museum. I adore Astro Boy, Buddha, Phoenix, so many others. Just a genius. And the only sad part is sometimes I wonder if he had gone at a slightly slower pace and, use some of that time to like be with his family, eat healthy, sleep well, maybe smoke a little bit less. I wonder if he still could have created the same overall amount of output just over a longer period of time. I wonder. Hey, that's really exciting, Andrew. Andrew just ordered one of the Rocketeer whiskeys that we were just talking about. Good for you. I'm glad that you've got a Rocketeer collection, and I think that that's a really unique thing to add. Yeah, Tezuka, like, I think he passed away in, 89 or something like that? I think it was 89, which isn't that long ago, really. At least to me, it doesn't feel like it. Yeah. Dorohedoro is by Tezuka. Search and Destroy is a book that's coming out basically now in English and is based on like sort of a more sci-fi modern interpretation of that book. I'm going to keep going. As long as I'm talking about manga creators, look at this. Manga legend Katsuhiro Otomo, Akira, is launching a new animation studio. It's called Oval Gear. It's based in Tokyo. It's currently hiring animators. The studio said about its mission, the studio was founded for two purposes: to pass on to the new generation the filmmaking methods and authorial sensibility Katsuhiro Otomo has cultivated over decades, and to produce new animated works for global release. Cool. Otomo has, beyond making comics like Akira and Domu, he's directed animated features. He directed Akira at the same time that he was making the manga. Steam Boy, another successful one. I think the first thing he directed was one of the animated shorts within Robot Carnival. I remember seeing Robot Carnival at a pretty young age and being very inspired by it. Anyway, he announced a new one back around 2019 called Sunrise. There's some speculation that that will actually be made by Oval Gear. So we'll see. Oh, yeah, Steam Boy's underrated for sure. Yeah, he's done a few short things and co-productions in animated stuff as a director. But I would kill to have him do another story in a manga format, but anything he wants to do, I'm interested in. Boy, I don't really remember that. An Akira series pre-pandemic? I'm sorry, I don't remember off the top of my head. But looks like you must be right, because Mike Manhattan's saying something similar. Was it supposed to get an animated TV show remake? Boy, that sets a high bar. But maybe they're trying to do it the right way. I'll talk about some other news. ComiXology. So, The Beat reports that the last ComiXology employee has left following recent layoffs at Amazon. An email to former general manager and chief technology officer at ComiXology, Jeff Bartolomeo, received an automated email that indicated he's no longer at ComiXology. The brand still exists, to be clear, but it operates just as a subset of Amazon's Kindle department. It has no dedicated employees. Interestingly, though, new comics under the ComiXology Originals branding will continue to come out. And those are now going to be run by Pamela Horvath of Superfan Productions. That's a PR agency that's been handling ComiXology's account for years. So I guess she's now somehow in charge of making sure that those, contracts and offers get, fulfilled and that the comics come out. Supposedly they sell books. That's what I hear. It's hard to remember now, but all I can say is at one point ComiXology was a very good app. It really was, and that's why Amazon bought it eventually. It was a really good app, but they really gutted it out slowly and just turned it into just a husk. Here's some news. Imogen Poots, that's a real name, and John Reynolds have been hired as the leads of Sex Criminals. That's Amazon Prime Video's series adaptation of the Image Comics title that's going to be produced by Emily V. Gordon, Kumail Nanjiani, and Sei Chun. The 2013 comic by Matt Fraction and Chip Zdarsky, just to give you the premise, if you haven't read it, and you should, it's great, follows Suze and John, who can stop time briefly when they have sex. And so when they meet each other and realize that they both are sort of awake while time is frozen after sex, they decide to do what anyone would do, start robbing banks. Nanjiani is also going to appear in the 8-episode series. Very, very cool. You might be able to tell the majority of the story in one season, for all I know. It depends how literal the adaptation goes. By the way, Fraction and Zdarsky together are on the hold on, all of a sudden I'm having a brain fart. My buddy Dave at West Coast Dave Avengers has a podcast, Direct Edition. I kept thinking Final Edition. Sorry, Direct Edition. I was just having a senior moment. Direct Edition. He has both of them on. Just did it just before he went to his Japan trip. Really cool to see them joking around, talking together. You might want to check that out. Yeah, Search Party is really cool. Search Party is a really interesting series. I hope it doesn't get canceled either. It's got a lot of good people behind it. Great comic. It was just announced that Nia DaCosta is directing. Well, she's a big fan of comics, so that's really cool. Yeah, it's really good. The Pulitzer Prize for Illustrated Reporting and Commentary went to Anand R.K., Suparna Sharma, and Natalie Obiko Pearson for their comic strip called, and it's stylized, Trapped, with 2 uppercase P's and the rest of it lowercase. The comic was originally published by Bloomberg on December 4th, 2025, not that long ago. It follows Dr. Ruchika Tandon, an Indian neurologist held under digital arrest via a phone scam. Trapped was part of a larger story by Sharma and Pearson uncovering digital scams in India. But Anand R.K. has done obviously a lot of comic books and stuff at DC recently. I just think it's really cool that a comic got a Pulitzer Prize. So wanted to put that on people's radar. Maybe you want to look up Trapped, read about that story, check out why it was good enough to have earned the Pulitzer. And the last piece of news I have is just that the National Cartoonist Society has announced that they're going to be presenting Bone creator Jeff Smith with their Milton Caniff Lifetime Achievement Award at this year's 80th annual Reuben Conference. Big congratulations to Jeff Smith. Well earned. Just real quick, if you haven't heard of Bone somehow or aware of what it's been achieved, I should say, a success. Published around the world in 33 countries, Bone has earned Smith 52 national and international awards, 11 Eisners, 11 Harveys, 2 National Cartoonist Society Comic Book Divisional Awards, as well as the Angoulême Alpha Art, Luca, and Adamson Awards. Very, very cool. Yes, I would love to see that animated. All right, that was the news. Next is supposed to be reviews, but I am having something going on. I need to use the bathroom again. I'm really sorry, folks. It's going to be a quick pause, and then I'll be back to review new comics. Talk amongst yourself, and I'm really sorry that I have to do this. It'll kill the views, but I just got to excuse myself for a moment. I'll be right back. Sorry. I'll be as quick as I can. All right, I'm back. Sorry. Oh, geez. Yeah, that's fair. A lot of people commenting on what a good show I'm making. All right. Embarrassing, but you know, it's called a bio break, and it happens from time to time. Let's move into setting up some reviews. Yeah, we'll do reviews.
Let's review.
Review it.
The review.
The reviews are in. I repeat, the reviews are in.
Go to reviews.
What?
Speaking of bad reviews,
Don't worry about that review.
Let's review all the facts.
All right, gentlemen, let's review.
Before we do, let's review.
Those reviews really came out fast.
Maybe we can review some right now?
I'm not going to review all that again.
Now let's review.
Not my worst review.
Let's review, shall we? To review.
I think I've reviewed about as much as I can.
All right. All I can say is I am surprised that in the years of doing this, that I've never really had to excuse myself before. It just hit me, and I had to excuse myself. So, yeah, next time I'll have some sort of like video that I can play in the rare instance that I'll have to excuse myself. But I'm not going to talk about any of those details. Let's instead talk about some of the comics that came out this week. Now, look, with the Royals, I'm going to end up being a little biased, all right? I already read it to prepare for my interview when I had Derek Kirkham and Jacob Perez on, and I ended up loving it. In fact, I loved it so much, I gave Derek a quote, and that was printed actually on the back of this issue. It says, Royals is a great crime comic, plot, characters, art, but I can't forgive it for making me afraid of chickens. This is an amazing crime comic. The action in this is just insane. I loved it. It's a story of like two brothers who can telepathically talk to each other. That's the extent of their ability, is that they can talk to each other telepathically. And they use it to scam people in poker games, but they've annoyed a crime boss. So in this issue, there's this incredible thing where one of the brothers gets tied up. We've already learned in the first issue that they both studied MMA and stuff, and they're both actually really good fighters. There's an incredible chase scene. A lot of small panels. It's so well done. It's so well done where you understand what's happening in each moment. And I don't know. I loved it. I loved this chase scene. It's so action packed. It goes from like, a street based fist and foot fight scene to a chase on like, a tour bus. It goes on for several pages. But the part I'm talking about on the back is there's a scene where the brothers are captured by a crime boss who they, beat at a poker game. And he suspects that they cheated somehow. He doesn't know how. And the guy runs a cockfighting ring. He puts these, what do you call them? Razors, hooks, I don't know, some sort of special knives on the rooster's feet, and then holds it above the brother's head to try to get information out of him. He's like slowly pulling the gate open. I'm going over it quick, but in context, when you're reading it, it really builds a great amount of tension in this. I won't show every bit of action and humor in it, but I will say I loved the second issue more than I loved the first. This is definitely a 3 out of 3 thumbs for me. 3 out of 3 thumbs. Fantastic art, fantastic pacing, good character moments, clever dialogue. It feels like, sure, you've seen crime heist, poker, chases, fights. Sometimes it just blends together where it's executed exactly right. And everything just clicks. And that's what this issue feels like to me. I think it's so strong. I really hope people are giving this book a shot because I love it. And now this is all I've read. I only read the first 2 issues. So next month, this will be new to me. But Royals is published by Image Comics. It's written by Derek Kim, art by Jacob Perez. This is his first comic book. Before this, he's worked in animation and done like a lot of character design and storyboards. It's surprising how good he is at figuring out the pacing for comics. There can be a lot of panels on some pages, but it isn't like it's crowded out with dialogue or anything like that. It's just lots of close-ups to show you certain specific moments of action. You don't have to intuit everything that's happening. A lot of American comics, for instance, he might be throwing this ramen into somebody's face, and that would be one big action beat, right? Here, it's more manga paced, where you're seeing every moment, him catching this, throwing it, the reaction of somebody that's been hit by it, the reaction of him flipping over his chair. It speeds up the action, actually, by showing you these individual moments. So I love it. It moves at such a great pace. Thanks for backing me up on that, Mike. They have an animator's approach to showing motion. Probably. They know where to do keyframes, you know? They know the moments that you need to see to follow everything. And they turn that into a comic. And I loved it. I really loved it. I think this was probably my favorite comic this week. But the next one I'm going to talk about is a darn close competitor. Very different type of book. Let's see. I don't know if Derek Kim had input on the art. He definitely did. But on this and his own book, Last Mermaid, they both have a heavy storyboard feel. I think, if anything, you could probably just intuit or interpret that as being people from an animation background have a certain way of recognizing what is needed to be told to tell something visually. And they know, they really know all those key moments that you have to break down. The second book I picked up this week that I loved is If Destruction Be Our Lot. If you tuned in last week, you saw me interviewing writer Matthew Rosenberg. And I'll give you a little glimpse behind the scenes of this show. I do get contacted quite a lot by people asking if I can interview them. And I like doing interviews, but if I'm going to do an interview, it does involve a lot of prep work for me. I want to go in reading a certain amount of the creator's work and looking at other interviews so that I'm not just treading the same ground. It's very important to me to do the best that I can for you guys. And so I don't really have enough time to just agree to every interview. I'll say more than 90%. I say, sorry, no. But Matthew had a nice email that wasn't pushy. And it included the comic, like digitally, so that I could just glimpse at it. I'll usually, if I can, like at least take a quick look to see the quality level. And then I'll see if it hooks me. And his concept hooked me. So I really liked talking to him last week. And Matthew Rosenberg, you'll probably hear a lot of. He's writing both Spawn and King Spawn now. But I like this creator-owned book that he's doing. Along with his brother, Mark Elijah, they're writing it. Art by Andy McDonald. Takes place in a future world where humanity has died off, and there are all sorts of robots that fulfill everything from, being entertainers, being policemen, being automated buses, street cleaners, or breakfast makers, but they have no purpose to their lives. They have no real purpose. They're just going through these motions of like doing what they were programmed for. And we follow primarily a robotic Lincoln. Now, he doesn't think that he is Lincoln, but he's programmed to talk like Lincoln. And for some reason, he just thinks there should possibly be something more to this world. And he's sort of breaking out of the routine. He's not liked by most of the other robots because robots can look like anything. They're built primarily to fulfill a function, whereas he looks like humanity, and robots don't really care for humanity. Anyway, it leads to him and a talking bus exploring some less explored areas of civilization, realizing that there's something beyond this sort of dome that they've all lived in for thousands of years, and even introducing the question of if humanity is truly gone. But it asks some really interesting questions about purpose in life and the meaning. And I'm very interested in seeing where this world goes. We as humanity, we don't just farm and hunt and eat and that's it, right? We take time to enjoy the world, and ideally we create things too. And whether that's a family or a piece of art, that gives meaning to our lives. And this book seems to ask the question, like, what if you didn't have that meaning? Like, what's the point of it all? And I like the idea that basically one character is sort of asking those questions, just being stymied by a world that's okay with just going through the motions of life. It's a fascinating idea. There's a lot of real creative ideas in here with all the different types of robots and how they all look different. Like, this is clearly a chef robot that's just ready to rip a bus apart for scrap parts, along with a bunch of other sort of hungry robots. And then there's police robots, but it's like, who do they really need to police? Everybody's just doing their jobs. It's a very interesting sci-fi idea to explore. It's a very big idea. And that's an interesting metaphor that's sort of a coincidence, but of course intentional as well. That right, the robot asking these questions of, sort of freeing themselves from routine is a simulacrum, as Mike says, of the great emancipator. Fascinating idea. He isn't Lincoln, but he's fulfilling Lincoln's role on a certain level. It is a big sci-fi idea. I would say it leans a little towards a very hard sci-fi concept, and at the same time, it does have some humor. These robots are not without personality. It's not like they per se have emotions, but they do have personality. And in fact, a bunch of them like just don't like Lincoln and repeating his speeches about, whatever, all sorts of speeches that Lincoln gave, but it's like, it's pointless to them. And they're like throwing wrenches and stuff at him and calling him, like a fake man. They don't like him because he looks like something that they don't want to think about. Strong recommendation. I also give this one overall 3 out of 3 thumbs. 3 out of 3 thumbs. So just to be clear, 2 absolute bangers that came out this week. Royals, number 2. If Destruction Be Our Lot, number 1. These 2 books I strongly recommend. More of a crime heist sort of book, more of a sci-fi society type of book, both with a bit of humor, both that break the rules in good ways. Yeah, I felt sympathy. I agree. I feel sympathy for a bus in this issue. And I was scared of a chicken in the Royals. That's, to me, a sign of good storytelling. When you empathize with situations that shouldn't be typical. I'm very excited about these.
2 thumbs and a stovepipe hat. fourscore and 7 years ago, I became Lincoln.
Of course, he didn't really talk like that. We think of Lincoln as having a deep voice, but apparently people say that he had more of a wispy, falsetto, high-pitched voice, which is, I think, what Daniel Day-Lewis tried to do in the Spielberg movie Lincoln. He talked a little bit more like this, and I don't know if it was the right thing to do. Yeah. It was like, I was like, oh my God, a rooster acting this crazy right in your face would definitely be dangerous. Apparently they can be. I've never had chickens or roosters. I do have some coworkers that either have chickens or have a family member with them, and they have to take care of them. And they're like, they can be jerks. They can be jerks. I've really been loving this run of Batman by Matt Fraction and Jorge Jimenez. The last issue and this one have guest fill-in artist Ryan Sook, who I am a fan of. It's not a bad issue at all. At the same time, at the very end of it all, it feels like the point was to, zooming out just a little, just set up a new book, which is okay. But have you ever watched a show that you like and you watch an episode and you're like, boy, the focus was not on the characters that I love in that. And then you realize that it was designed to be what's called a backdoor pilot, as in set up a potential spinoff. I'm old enough that I've seen shows like that and even had shows where there were spinoffs that were very brief, but you get that backdoor pilot episode where, the supporting characters all show up on the main show first. I've seen it on, Cheers and Married with Children and Supernatural, all sorts of shows. And sometimes it doesn't go anywhere. This one is going somewhere, but it feels a little like that. Right. There was that one original series Star Trek episode about sort of a guy that was like a spy or something, and it was like, what? This doesn't feel like Star Trek to me. It's like sci-fi, and I see the characters from the cast, but it's so weird. I've seen some people saying that. To me, I don't get that same vibe, but I understand where people are coming from with the current Boys season, saying that it feels like a backdoor pilot because we kind of know that there is going to be a prequel. To me, I think of it the opposite way around. I think that they had what they wanted to do in this final season and then realized that they wanted to do more with those characters. But I could be wrong. Yeah, Gary 7. Gary 7 is what the Star Trek one. They also did it on Arrow, didn't they? Like the final season of Arrow had like a future set episode with sort of like almost a Birds of Prey type team, and they wanted to do a future set Arrow show. Anyway, the point I'm getting at is this. Batman starts off the episode talking to his team, okay? He's talking to Duke Thomas and Batgirl and Robin, and he's saying, look, Vandal Savage is the commissioner of police, and he's coming after us. He's found a bunch of our hideouts throughout the city. Our job is to go and take what we can salvage and otherwise just burn down these safe houses, because we don't want him getting a hold of our, gadgets and our data and stuff like that. So the team is mostly racing around the city, trying to get to safe houses before the bad guys. And that's fine. That's a good enough premise. I'm with it. I like it. Ultimately, the heart of the story is that Bruce decides he needs to trust his son, Damian, more. And so he swaps his mission with Damien's. He's like, Damien, I'm going to give you the main mission. I'm going to take your role as sort of running around as backup interference. So that's good too. There's some motion there. There's some good action. No problems. It's not a bad issue. But all of a sudden, like about maybe 2/3 of the way through, Batgirl gets arrested. And the point of that is obviously we know that there is an issue coming out this week. It's called Barbara Gordon Outlaw or something like that, where Barbara Gordon is going to be in prison. And it felt like this issue was needed to give that setup instead of setting it up in issue 1 of her book. I'm okay with that. I think that it's a cool premise, the idea of following, a superhero in a prison setting. That's dangerous, that's exciting, it's cool. Breakout, excuse me, not Outlaw, Breakout. My favorite is probably Tim Drake. Anyway, it's sort of like, I think it loses a little bit of focus once you realize, like, oh, we're doing a bunch of stuff here. The point of this was a little, like, in part to show an evolution of the relationship with Batman and his son. But in part, it was also to set up a different title. And just taken within the context of just this, I love the starting point of an idea of Barbara Gordon in prison. I like that. But within this, how does Barbara Gordon not have all these security features to know that she's about to have her hideout raided by the police? All I can figure is that they're going to say that it was intentional that she got herself arrested, because I don't feel like she should have been surprised by any of this. She's the computer guru and she's always hacking security cams and things like that. So she should know if her hideout is about to be invaded by these corrupt police officers. So all I can say is they don't explicitly say it, but I assume the point is they intentionally let one of them get captured so that they'll get information from something going on in the prison. That's the only thing that makes sense to me. Because if they don't do that, I'll just say it seems like a big oversight for this like team that seems to, be pretty smart. Right. She should definitely be able to know that they're coming. That shouldn't be a surprise to Barbara Gordon of all people, or Batman. Maybe, arguably, like one of the Robins could get tricked by that. Apparently, just to be clear, this issue got some fans mad because Wayne Manor gets destroyed in it. And to that, I say, guess what, folks? This has definitely happened before. You shouldn't get mad about this because it's happened before. It happened in the comics. I want to say it was still the 90s, but do you remember No Man's Land? There was a huge earthquake and it devastated Gotham. It ruined Wayne Manor. It happened, the earthquake happened right outside. The issues were called Cataclysm. It was like a prequel to that. And so that was a story where Wayne Manor was destroyed. Batman Begins, the Christopher Nolan movie with Christian Bale, Ra's al Ghul burns down the mansion, doesn't he? And so they didn't have access to the mansion in Dark Knight. Arkham Knight, I believe, was the video game where I think the Joker blows up Wayne Manor. What else? I don't know. And of course, there's multiverse stories and Elseworlds and stuff. So all I can say is there are fans that are like, I can't believe they destroyed Wayne Manor. It's too important. And I'm like, get over it. They've destroyed it and rebuilt it before. Not his brownstone in the city, his actual mansion above the Batcave. Tropes. Exactly. It's been done before. So I'm just going to say, whatever. It's going to all be rebuilt. It's going to all be rebuilt. He's a billionaire. If he needs to, he can rebuild it. Sometimes you need to take away a hero's tools to make them work harder. He's just built up too many things. In this, they're taking away one of his allies. They're taking away all of his hideouts for the most part. And I think that's a good idea. I think it's cool. It forces the character to work harder and to think differently. So storytelling-wise, I think it's a good idea. This issue itself, I'll give something like 1.5 to 2 thumbs out of 3. It's okay. It's okay. I do look forward to Jorge Jimenez coming back, but Ryan Sook is a great artist. The art is good. I don't know. I don't think so, but everybody's going to know now. Everybody knows now. I also picked up the latest, essentially, Something is Killing the Children book. It's called Fall of the House of Slaughter. Very evocative title, very, very literary. Written by Tate Bromball, and art in this is by Adriano Turtulici. Boy, there's a lot of Italian artists in American comics these days. Anyway, I like this issue quite a bit. It is not an action-packed issue. It's a political intrigue issue where the Monster Hunter house that the main character, Erica Slaughter, works out of is all jockeying for who will take over leadership of this house. That's the essential gist of this issue. I don't know. I wouldn't have thought that necessarily would have interested me, but it moves at a great pace. As you can see, there are pages that are very sparse on dialogue, and that actually just means that it moves at a good pace. And when you get pages where the cast is debating and arguing the case, I feel like it really explains it from ground zero in a way that I could understand. There's also this interlude here of sorts where it explains how the government of these houses works for replacing a leader. I found it pretty darn interesting. And I thought that was impressive, since it's not, fighting monsters, but it's an issue arguing over who should rule this house. I do wonder if it's interesting to me because I've read this series from the beginning and I'm invested in what happens there. I don't know if you just jumped in on this. I don't know if it would carry that emotional weight or not. I hope it would. I literally can't know because I've been reading it from the beginning, so I'm up to date and I'm aware of these characters in this world. I like the world and the lore too. It doesn't feel overly complex, but it feels like it's been thought out and it makes sense. I like it. The art is not like overly rendered or anything. It's fairly open line work, thick lines, really, not delicate, thin lines, kind of thick. But there is something about it that reminds me of, a guy like an Alex Toth, where it's really focusing on the form and the gesture and the composition within a panel. It's good storytelling. So ultimately, I do recommend this. I think it's very cool. It's just hard for me to know if this is a good jumping on point as a recommendation. It's a sort of a jumping on point where there's definitely something new that's about to happen that will change the book. Who's running this show? I do recommend it. I think it would be a good jumping on point. No, it's going to be continuing for at least a few issues because it hasn't resolved who's taking over this house, and that's what this is going to be about. Basically, there are different Monster Hunter houses that are all part of this Order of St. George, and they're tasked with hunting down monsters and keeping the public from becoming aware of the existence of monsters, because monsters are created when young kids believe in them. If they get scared enough and believe in it, it comes into existence. So if everybody knew about it, there would be a lot more monsters and a lot more death. So they've got this really interesting sort of world. Yeah. If they had come out with this series ahead of Something is Killing the Children, it wouldn't have worked. No, it wouldn't, because it's not what you start the overall thing with. You need to start with Erica Slaughter, the single person that bucks the system and actually cares about the people more than the mission. She cares about the people more than the mission. But as a jumping on point for sort of a new arc, a new conception of where the story will go, this probably is a good jumping on point. That's my best guess. Fear is the villain, also to a degree, sort of the actual monster hunters to a large degree are the villain. And Erica is just sort of this upstart that doesn't fit within the system, and she's the hero. No, that's true. Aside from, there's some anthologies back in the pre-Code days, like, Tales of the Crypt and Vault of Horror and stuff that lasted quite a while. Walking Dead is a very rare example of a horror title going this long. I think you could argue that Hellblazer, the John Constantine book, is a horror book and is a rare example, as well as Swamp Thing, of like a horror book going on for a long time. But House of Slaughter is a very rare, creator-owned horror book that's gone on this long. Very cool. Look, just some quick reviews for the other things. This was the final issue of the Fantastic Four versus the Invincible Woman, which is an evil version of Sue Storm that has performed a lobotomy on herself so that she doesn't feel guilt and instead just does horrific things with her powers as an explorer. Ryan North always thinks of clever ways to use characters and their powers in new ways. In this, they have to, they want to bring the Fantastic Four from outer space back to Earth. And to do that, they enlist Scarlet Witch to cast a magic spell to do it. But it's so far away that she has trouble aiming it exactly at them. So they break Bullseye out of prison and like basically play on his vanity to say, like, you will never have a harder target than this. It's basically like this cosmic shot where you have to like calculate where something is going to be to hit it with the spell. It's silly and over the top, but it's also kind of fun. The idea of combining Scarlet Witch and Bullseye into an interstellar spell to bring the Fantastic Four back. And it's also got a villain that is just insanely powerful. They send Deadpool and Wolverine after her just to buy them time, and she is just tearing them absolutely apart. But they can heal, so that it might just buy the rest of the heroes a little bit of time. So it's just full of lots of clever little story beats like that. And relying on the fact that as powerful as Invincible Woman is, she's still a human being with the concentration of what one single person can have. So it feels like they have to really think hard to outthink her. But I loved this issue. It was really fun. I also went to my comic book store, and they still had some free Comic Book Day books. And give me 2 seconds here. I'm actually having a vertigo spell right now, believe it or not. Geez, I thought I've had tons of water, but I am having a big vertigo spell. Everything's spinning. It's starting to normalize. Sorry about that, folks. I've obviously not been at 100% this episode. Okay, I'm good. Well, pretty good anyway. Jesus. Yeah, I'm a little dizzy. Well, we'll see how things go. I picked up a free Comic Book Day book by Oni. It's by Matt Kint. It's two little things. One is an introduction to mind management, which he's bringing back. And that's sort of a book, if you like Department of Truth about like, conspiracy theories being sort of like real and stuff. Mind Management is a similar sort of trippy book that plays with what's real and what isn't and all these different conspiracies. And that's fun. But what I was excited about is this is set in the same world, but it's sort of a take on G.I. Joe in that world. And it's called Fort Psycho. But it's sort of like if the over-the-top sort of characters with like one specialty in G.I. Joe lived in a world where things had a little bit more... I don't want to quite say realism, but almost like a bleak realism to them. For instance, they've got this cool desert Jeep and its tires literally melt in the rubber because it's like government made and it's like bid out to the cheapest contractor. Yeah. It's kind of funny. And they go up against a supervillain. But I guess the ultimate book when it launches of Fort Psycho is going to involve this sort of American team having been arrested for failing to stop the supervillains, the terrorist organization. And they've gone to jail. They've been sort of like made to be the sacrificial lamb, saying that it was all their fault. And they're going to bust out of prison to go after the bad guys. I don't know, kind of an idea to just have G.I. Joe, but without any of the restrictions or anything. Maybe not quite Watchmen because it's a little more satirical. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate the kind words. I definitely am not feeling 100% tonight, and I'm sorry. I really am. I thought that I was doing a good job drinking a lot more water than usual, but I think I am. I think I have been dehydrated for a little while. Anyway, I'm excited to read Fort Psycho, but the ones out of this week that I recommend the most were two books, If Destruction Be Our Lot, issue 1, and The Royals #2. Really strong recommendations, easy to jump into either of these and get caught up. This one's sci-fi, this one's crime/heist, but they're both really, really cool. I'm going to do a little bit of drawing and talk about some other stuff like comic tropes and media stuff that I've watched and answer questions from you guys. The first thing I'll discuss real quick is... sorry, I was just checking on a line. Comic tropes. I did put out a new episode. So funny, after I recorded it, I realized I hadn't framed it quite right. I had all these original Tradmore comics set up beside me, but they're just off camera. I couldn't quite see. Anyway, so yeah, I talk about a really interesting artist, Tradmore. And because I haven't released episodes consistently this month, the algorithm did not recommend it to many people, so I thought I'd tell you. Likes, comments, and shares really help. It's got low views but very high ratings, and all the comments that I've seen have been really, really positive, which is just a great feeling. So I'm happy with the episode. Just to be clear, I've already written and recorded the next episode, so hopefully it doesn't take me too long to get that to you all. Very excited to have that. I'm going to try to do something a little different with comic tropes. Very little different. Which is, instead of just sort of bouncing all around, I'm still going to cover a wide variety of topics, but I'll try to cluster somewhat similar ideas just to see if that engages a little better. The best thing I could do is just to release more episodes faster, of course. But I think you guys are mostly aware, it is slowing things down with just dealing with the house and repairs and all that stuff, insurance and payments, and the fact that the house is disorganized because it flooded. And so I just want you to know that I'm impacted by just real life a little bit, and that sucks, but it is what it is. Anyway, so I'm going to try to just do somewhat similar topics as a group. I'm going to do a few creators that have atypical styles but work in the mainstream. Then I'm going to do a bunch of important Batman artists that I personally love, hopefully some a little off the beaten path. I'm going to do a few manga things. So I'm going to sort of do a cluster of themes, I think, and just do like 3 to 4 that are sort of grouped together and see if by any chance that engages people more. Because they'll, like, if they like one, they might like the next one and then the next one, and then they might try something a little bit different. How dare you? I remember buying the first issue of Luther Strode just because of the cover. The interior blew me away. Yeah, very unique, right? Very unique. I know, I should have worn my captain's outfit. I did not see the boys' showrunner's response, but all I can say is some of the stuff that they predict came to pass, like basically the same week that the show's coming out. They're very prescient. Maybe it's easy to guess this stuff. I don't know. But yeah, Homelander getting a golden statue and then Trump gets one that week. Pretty bonkers. Pretty bonkers. I like to think that. I don't know. The only thing I've sort of learned for sure about Steve Ditko is that he's a very unpredictable guy. It was really hard to know how he'd feel about anything. And he had very strong opinions. But my understanding is that the people that worked with him said that he was a really nice guy to talk to. He's reliable. So he had like these really strong ideas, but he was still like a nice guy to work with. Oh, that's very kind of you. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Do an episode on comic magazines. There have definitely been a lot. I'd have to think about that. I'd have to think about that real hard as to like what I'd want to say. But yeah, cool idea. So yeah, that's my plan for comic tropes. And like I say, I think I can have the next episode out without taking nearly as much time as the most recent one did. To be clear, of course, I did release another episode in the middle that just unfortunately YouTube said, no, we think this violates our guidelines. So, you know, I kind of bailed on trying to come up with an edit that they would be okay with and just focused on trying to wrap up the Trad Moore episode. But I did release one. It got taken down within 10 hours. So, yeah, sorry. I did try to release something else. What else? Oh, what's come out this week? I saw 2 movies in the last week. That's the one thing I sort of let myself do sometimes at night. I saw Hokum, which is a horror movie by an Irish writer-director, set in Ireland, starring Adam Scott. I liked it a lot. Not necessarily gory, but really creepy, disturbing imagery, cool mystery at its core. I thought that there was great character work in it. I really, really liked it a lot. Maybe not quite as much as I liked, say, last year's things like Weapons and Sinners, but so far this year, really high up there. And I saw, what do you call the new Mortal Kombat 2. For what it's worth, I'd say I think it's probably the best Mortal Kombat movie, but I didn't love the one that they did in 2021. I think personally I like this one a little bit more. It's not perfect, but it is fun. And it's got, I'm not kidding, like about 10 different separate fight scenes, which is pretty awesome. That's a lot. That's a lot. It was funny. It had a few fight scenes that were really cool. Some that were only okay, or like, very much looked like a stunt man doing something, but that's okay. It was good. It was good. It had characters that I liked. Yeah. To be fair, the only other Mortal Kombat movie that I personally liked was the original one, and even I'll say that was pretty goofy with average special effects, but it was better than 2021. No, I don't know about that one. I don't know that one. A lot of people have said, like, hey, did I see that or did I miss that? Yeah, the Omaha the Cat Dancer video, I just have decided it's not worth trying to come up with an edit because I don't think it shows anything offensive. I think it's literally just that I talk about sex in it, and that they just, YouTube was like, no, we don't want that. So, okay, fine. I guess I give up. That's too bad. You can see it on my Patreon, but yeah. Uncensored, by the way. Because I don't think it's an offensive comic book. I really don't. Sometimes, and that's why I try to do some topics that are definitely not children friendly, but yeah. Oh, I did see that one. I'm sorry. I saw the one with Zazie Beetz, and it was fun. I guess it was honestly, I would just say kind of forgettable. But it wasn't bad. That's me. Peddler and purveyor of smut. That's me. What else have I seen? There was the season finale of Daredevil. I won't spoil anything, but overall, I would say I personally was satisfied with it. I thought it was pretty cool. I don't know how everybody felt about it, but I thought it made sense where they wrap things up for most of the characters for now, and has some strong hints for what's coming in the future, which could be very cool based on some comics that I like anyway. I hope it's good. I thought it was a really good season. I thought it really was. I'm glad we're getting one more, at least one more. I thought it was good. There was a funny little bit of trivia in there. The Kingpin is Wilson Fisk, but he was given a middle name when writer, usually artist, but then writer David Mack briefly did the title. He gave him a middle name, Grant, because his father was Wilson Grant Mack. And in the episode, Kingpin has to testify on the what do you call it? In a trial, anyway. And so he has to give his name, and he gives his full name as Wilson Grant Fisk. And I'm sure that for David Mack, that must have been kind of fun and flattering. He got to use his dad's name in that way. Stephen Grant Rogers is Captain America's name. That makes sense. You know what? I didn't. I did sort of bail on Dick Tracy. I was enjoying it plenty. It's just that there's so many good comics, and I feel like I need to. I just had to limit it, but I did like Mad Cave's Dick Tracy. I did like it. What else? The Boys. I talked about this briefly earlier during the news. I know that some people are saying that they're not a fan. They think that like it's not as good as previous seasons. Is one criticism. I disagree, actually. Other people saying that there's too much with characters that are clearly for the upcoming prequel. but I feel like so far it's all making sense as an organic narrative. I don't know. The Boys works for me. I do watch TV a lot less critically than I watch or read comics. I will admit that. I do go in a little less critical. But I also bail on what I don't like, and I stick with what I do. And personally, I am having a lot of fun with The Boys. It's crazy and bonkers, but I like Jack Quaid and I like Carl Urban. And I like Anthony Starr as Homelander. He's detestable. I think Jensen Ackles has a lot of charisma and works fine as Soldier Boy. I like it. So I guess I've watched a decent amount of media. I watched 2 shows and 2 movies this week, which is, for me, a fair amount to fit in. Can't always do that. But for me, that's a lot. I did not keep up with the Godzilla show. What is it? Monarch by Matt Fraction. If I have a bunch of extra free time, it is something I might come back to. Because I like Godzilla so much, but I just really did find a lot of those kid characters in it, which are really 20-somethings, but I found them so uninteresting and annoying. Kurt Russell wasn't quite enough to keep me invested. I don't think I've read any Koji Suzuki. No. Interesting. I don't know. The name doesn't really ring a bell. I've been watching Monarch. There are monsters in season 2, but the kids are still there. Check out a Jack Quaid thriller called Neighborhood Watch. It's pretty great. I don't think I know about Neighborhood Watch, Andy, but I'll keep that in mind. Neighborhood Watch. I like Jack Quaid as an actor. I thought he was really cool in the Scream movie that he did. He was good in what was that recent horror movie where you could have like a robot girlfriend and he treated her so bad? I forget the name of it right now. That one was good. I didn't love at all the Novocaine. That was dumb, but that wasn't really his fault, even though he was the star. I didn't like it. Yeah, Companion I thought was really disturbing and pretty cool. Not fantastic, but pretty cool. You know, I only watched some of season 1, so I need to catch up, but I liked what I saw. It's really, really good. Yeah. Let's see. Do you read novels they write that are of comic book characters like Batman or Spider-Man had some novels and you only get words? I don't think I've ever read a novel about, serialized characters. I've heard that some of the Walking Dead ones are good because it's like new stories set in that world. But, no, I can't think of any just pure novels that I've done for that. No. Oh, excuse me. I do know who you're talking about. Right. Koji Suzuki wrote The Ring and Dark Water. I liked the movies that were based off of his stuff. Yeah. I saw The Ring, the Japanese one, Ringu, before I saw the American remake. And so I think those are both so similar that whichever one you saw first is the one that carries more weight. But yeah, really, really good. Yeah, he passed away, so that's too bad. But Sadako was a cool sort of what would you say, like modern horror monster. So that's too bad. Those were actual like light novels, right? Not manga though. They were just novels, right? I think so. let's see. I guess I can get rid of the banner because I think I've covered all the topics at this point. Is there any other media? I want to read some books. I feel like it's been a while since I've had time to just really sit down and read a book. I keep thinking maybe I should try the first Dungeon Crawler Carl just because it's so popular. I sort of want to. It's that fear of missing out type of feeling. Like maybe I should give it a shot. Wasn't a huge fan of the comic, but the premise wasn't bad. So maybe. I haven't played any games in a while because my downstairs is completely ruined. So that's where my gaming console was. Consoles. I had a PlayStation and an Xbox. I guess technically I still do, but I can't really go down there. This month, the Lego Batman game comes out. Well, I guess maybe I should play it on Switch. Does the Switch 2? Switch 2 has the Lego Batman game, right? I could do that. I could do portable. Don't have to hook it up to the big TV downstairs. I'll think about that. There's a movie coming out on Blu-ray later this month that I really strongly recommend to everybody. It's a comedy. I don't know how many of you out there ever watched Nirvana, the band, the show. Super funny Canadian show. Super funny. And they made a movie continuation of it. And you don't have to have watched the show to enjoy the movie at all. That movie had me laughing out loud very hard quite a bit. So I strongly recommend it. That comes out on Blu-ray. I want to say something around the 22nd or somewhere in that vicinity. Strong recommend, folks. If you haven't, I don't know. I guess these days, if you're just going to rent it, you just rent it on streaming, so you don't care about a Blu-ray release, right? I have to think that through. But yeah, I do recommend it. It's really, really funny. Really funny. It's about two sort of dumb guys that are in a band that just want to book a show at their local bar in Toronto and always have these way overly elaborate ideas on how to do it. Here's one fun thing to the show. They will go out in public and sort of do live improv with people that don't know that it's part of a movie. And it's hilarious. Some of the confusion that they create with people. Really, really good. Hear me out. Cast idea for a supporting role in the DCU. Tom Cruise as Jay Garrick. Too slow. From what I heard, Matthew Lillard just got that role. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that Matthew Lillard will play Jay Garrick. He's a friend of James Gunn, so that makes sense. Do episodes based on video game, comic adaptations. I've done 2 technically. Because I did an episode back when Sonic was still at Archie going there's all this lore and stuff. I've never read it. Can I just jump into a random issue and make sense of it? And I was overwhelmed with how crazy it was. I also looked at the really weird official Nintendo Game Boy comics by Valiant Comics back in the day. I don't know if they confirmed it or not. I could be wrong. Dino Crisis comics? Don't know those. Dino Crisis? Oh, you know what I was thinking of for a minute? Dino Riders, which was briefly published by Marvel. That was based on a toy, though. I don't know Dino Crisis from a Hong Kong publisher. Sorry. Oh, it's a game. Oh, didn't know that, to be honest. Sorry. What else? What other comic books based on video games are there? I'm trying to think. I can't come up with one off the top of my head. I might do something like that at some point. I do want to talk more about Frank Miller, both as an artist and a writer. I do want to do more. So I'll consider that. Didn't know that was a thing, to be honest. That's a complete blind spot for me. I mean, there's probably been comics based on some popular stuff like, I don't know what, Zelda, Metroid, Resident Evil, probably. But I've definitely never read any. But I would imagine that there are. Earthworm Jim. That artist, creator of Earthworm Jim, Doug TenNapel, so talented, but just really seems hateful. I don't understand him. I think he's an incredible artist, and I really loved a book he did back in the day called Creature Tech. That was one I really loved. But I remember a friend of mine back in the day had reached out to him and said, like, hey, this is a friend of mine. And this friend, by the way, did end up going pro. Really great artist. I won't name names. And they'd shown Doug a link to his DeviantArt page. And Doug had this huge diatribe email back going like, I would never look at anything where somebody is proud to use the word deviant. That's an affront to our Lord and Savior. And, that's the most offensive thing I could think of. Like, how dare you try to share with me art on a page called Deviant? And it was like, what? And that was just the beginning of when I started learning that he just had strong opinions about certain things that weren't going to match up with me. So, it is what it is. It was very weird. And obviously I'm paraphrasing a little bit because this was probably 20 years ago or something, but I'm pretty close. Creature Tech was really cool. It depends on how much you can separate art from the artist, right? It depends. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. It's always an individual's choice. Yeah, Valiant did some Nintendo comics. They did some wrestling comics. They did a couple things before they did their shared superhero universe. You're reminding me, wasn't it on the Dreamcast? There was a Marvel Superheroes versus Capcom video game. Am I remembering that right? Because all of a sudden I'm having these memories of playing a Marvel Capcom fighting game. And I want to say it was on the Dreamcast, way back to 30 years ago. And it was really cool. I remember somebody brought a Nintendo to Chicago Comic-Con in 99 or something, or maybe it was more like 2002. But anyway, we had so much fun. There's a bunch. Okay. All of a sudden I just remembered that. I had fun playing. And by the way, I'm terrible at fighting games. So I had fun playing them. I pretty much always lost. I'm awful at fighting games. Just cannot do well at them. I can never remember combos very well. So yeah, I'm just not good at them. But I like them. There have been times in my life I did like the original Mortal Kombat through about Mortal Kombat 4. I was decent at, but that's going back quite a ways now, I know. But those were ones that I was decent at the time. Mostly with Sub-Zero, sometimes Liu Kang. I'm trying to think if there's ever been any other fighting games that I'm good at, but I don't think so. Dreamcast had Marvel vs. Capcom and Marvel. Then I played both of those, and that was really, really fun. Thank you for the super chat. That means a lot to me. It really helps right now while we're dealing still with repairs, to be clear. So many of your suggestions fill my bookcase. Wow. Thank you, Robert the Michael. I really, really appreciate you. That makes me feel good when people have had a good reaction to a recommendation, because there's so many great comics out there. Worst comic I've ever read. There's a bunch that are like so miserable that I doubt I could really even make a fun episode about them. I would say one that I cannot figure out how to make an entertaining episode about, I've talked about a little bit, is Marvel by Bill Jemas. I thought that one was just depressingly and offensively bad. But my understanding is my friend Owen Likes Comics is working on an actual look at that piece of history. Yeah, Trouble was pretty bad. I thought that was depressing. Didn't like that. I would say I got burned out on what Cerebus became, where it just sort of moved away from telling, sort of a satirical barbarian thing into being like this commentary on all sorts of aspects of pop culture that Dave Sim grew up with, and it just sort of, I don't know, I lost interest. Owen Likes Comics needs a GoFundMe for alcohol to get through Marvel. Super Pro is more an example to me of it's bad, but it's entertaining bad. It's not, it's funny. There's plenty of comics where I've probably forgotten about them because they're boring bad, There's probably a lot like that I'm just going to have trouble remembering unless the right thing brings it to the front of my mind. What else are people asking about? Sorry. Did you see Fanta has a new line of Hal Foster pencils, sketches, etc.? 2 volumes out now. No, Circuitron, I didn't see that. Sometimes I feel bad that I haven't done episodes on guys like Hal Foster, Milton Caniff, Alex Toth. I've referred to them in lots of episodes, but it's because they were so influential to so many. Vaguely remember that. That one, what was that called? Was it Spider-Man Untold Tales or The Hidden Years? Actually, I think X-Men was The Hidden Years. What was that called? Don't really remember. Oh, it's a pretty bad comic. I happen to like a lot of the books written by Tom King. I think Helen of Windhorn is brilliant. I think Woman of Tomorrow, Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow is amazing. Human Target is amazing. I like a lot of his comics. But the JLA comic he did about mental health, what was that called? Oh, it was so bad. Heroes in Crisis. Heroes in Crisis I don't like. Maybe I'll have to make an episode about that sometime, just because it is interesting to come across a book that you don't like by a creator you otherwise do like. I'd feel bad talking trash about it because I generally like the creator. It's not like I want to hurt their feelings, but I also do like to try to be honest with my opinions with my audience. So maybe that is one I would consider doing at some point. I just felt like that was a it just didn't work for a variety of reasons. Like, and it was legit just, yeah, I just did not care for it. Did not care for it. I am not going to see that movie, but that trailer is bonkers. It looks like it turns Animal Farm into a comedy or something. And I'm like, I never, ever interpreted Animal Farm as a comedy. Maybe a very black satire, you could argue, but in no way funny, haha. So weird. Oh, yes, you're right. The Byrne one was called Spider-Man Chapter 1. I just remembered that. Yep, that's right. I liked his Batman run. I did. I'll agree that some issues are better than others, but I think he had a lot of interesting arcs and issues. I love that. I think it was just a one issue, maybe it was two, but I think it was just one where Bruce Wayne had to serve on a jury about a Batman case. It was super interesting. It also involved Mr. Freeze. It was really good. Okay, some people didn't like the execution. That's fair, but I would hope so, just because I don't want to just trash talk a creator that I do generally like. I just didn't like this one thing. So, yeah, you're right. I could probably tell that in a balanced way to go just like, look, here's all the things I don't like about this. But maybe it's interesting to just sort of say, like, but just so you know, like my background, I do happen to love the writer for all these other things. Cold Days. Yeah. Cold Days is great. Yep. Really, really good. I did read Animal Pound. I remember reviewing it like when it was coming out on this show. Really, really good. Really, really good. What else? What comics are you reading like first on your stack every month that I might be missing? Anything that is good that I'm missing the boat on, do you think? I picked up Corpse Night based on your review last week. Definitely going to keep up with it. I think it has a lot of potential. So I hope I'm right. I would like to interview Tom King at some point too, but maybe first I will do a look at Heroes in Crisis. That's probably a little ways off right now, just because I've got about 2 months of topics that I really want to do, and I say 2 months, but you know the schedule that might turn into 3 months. Oh, I'm glad that you liked it. I will say I like the Man of Action Studios creators a lot, and I admire their success with Ben 10, but I never saw Ben 10. You know, I was a little too old, so it's just a total blind spot. Tony Millionaire did a book at Bad Idea? I didn't know that. That's nice to hear. Muppets Noir is pretty good. Good. Muppets probably work best as the actual Muppets, but the Muppets are funny and very versatile in being able to tell all sorts of different types of stories. So I'm glad to hear that you're enjoying Muppets Noir. That's really cool. Tonight I was just doing a lot with just a simple technical pen, a Micron, because specifically I've sort of used a brush pen for a bunch of outlines here on Dean, and I wanted to do more of a scratchy, short stroke type of texture for the blackness in this warehouse behind, this window that we're looking through. I thought that would help sort of, I don't know, just differentiate the line width and stuff. I just got the second Mignola Hellboy Artist Edition. It is glorious. I have to imagine it is. I got the very first one he ever did, which is, she's going way, way back. The big hardcover. Gorgeous, gorgeous book. One of my favorite artists, Mike Mignola. He really evolved into an art style that I don't think anyone else had when he was creating it. And I really admire how he was able to also take control of his career by writing and co-writing stories that catered to what he really wanted to draw. He didn't want to draw cars. He wanted to draw crumbling churches. And I admire that. I got my Muppets Noir issues from the claim sale here just last week. Oh, good, good, good. I'm so glad. I think it's okay to keep Alfred dead because the longer it happens, the more weight a death in comics can have. I think it also removes one of the easy sort of tools that Batman has, that emotional support, and it forces him to be the adult, which I think he has to be when he has like the Robins and stuff. I'm sure someday he will come back, but I think it's a challenge at this point. Alfred's become such a part of Batman lore. I think it's a challenge to write without him, and I think that the older a character gets, the more you really should challenge yourself. No, you know what? I haven't read that. I would probably love it. I'd probably love it. You've been reading Die by Gillen and Hans. Nice. If Image and Dark Horse decided to work together, what characters would you like to see cross over? Probably the ones from more like, that I was growing up with. Like, I would love to see something new with the Mask. I think that if I could see the Mask crossover with an Image superhero, that could be a lot of fun. Maybe something in the Invincible shared universe. What other... I'm trying to think of what else Dark Horse currently has. Because, for a long time I'd be able to say, Aliens or Predator could cross over in interesting ways. Well, that's an interesting idea. Powers Invincible. I would love to see a crime comic take place. An investigation, a murder investigation in the Invincible universe. I would be down with something like that. That's not a bad idea at all. Yeah, very strong idea. Monkey Man and O'Brien meets Above Snakes. Gilmore Girls versus Alien. Well, there we go. We're just going to cross over anything we can. Black Hammer, Astro City? Wow, that would be a weird one. I wonder. They each have such a different perspective on what you're trying to say with superheroes. That would be very challenging. I've almost finished reading the Beast of Burden Omnibus. The Hellboy crossover was fun. I have read a bunch of both Hellboy and Beast of Burden, so I don't know how I missed that crossover, but I do. Maybe I did read it at one point, and I'm sort of forgetting it. It is possible. Anyway. Concrete meets Dragon, I'd read. Transformers versus Terminator. Irredeemable, Invincible, even though that's Boom Image. That's fair. That's fair to talk about. Let's see. Muppets Noir #1 is great, but #2 is incredible. Roger Landridge, pulling triple duty as writer, artist, and letterer, has given a very creator-focused vision that's a lot of fun to read. That makes sense to me. Yeah, that makes sense. I love it when a creator steps up and takes on like multiple duties. It's just always such an intriguing result, you know, to see them try to do as much as possible and get a singular vision. A lot of comics are formed through collaboration, but in small teams. It's very interesting to me when we see them, just be an almost solo effort. It's one of the advantages of comics. Yep, Chip Zdarsky with Public Domain. Yep, Hellboy is a good example. Very singular vision. John Byrne's done a few things. Yeah. Obviously, he's about to do the X-Men Elsewhere thing. Langridge is a unique and very special cartoonist. Yeah, he's good. Sorry, I'm just having fun doing weird little texture stuff tonight, so I get quiet here and there. This is my cool down period, but I appreciate all the comments and questions. It adds a lot, so I always have fun doing this part, and I'll do it as often as I can. Even if it's not the part that most people tune in for, it's very therapeutic for me to get to just sort of draw and just chat about whatever. It's really fun for me. There's a Comic-Con in my city this week. Kevin Nolan, Paul Jenkins, Amanda Connor, Jimmy Palmiotti, Yannick Paquette. So those are some good guests. I would attend with guests like that, even if that was the total guests, if like a small convention. That would actually excite me more because I'd have a better chance of getting to chit chat. That would be nice. Yeah, get a Static 1 signed by Dennis Cohen. Wait, was issue 1 also by John Paul Leon? Who all worked on issue 1? 1993 milestone. Written by Dwayne McDuffie, of course, and Robert L. Washington III. Penciler was John Paul Leon. The cover was Dennis Cohen. Right. Cover was Dennis Cohen. But the interior artist was John Paul Leon. Yep. Boy, was he good. Gone too soon. Ooh, Harrow County Revival. What an interesting idea for a crossover. Yeah, not bad. Not bad at all. I like it. Dave! I know you'll be dealing with like jet lag for a while, buddy, but hopefully we can meet up on New Comic Book Day this week. I hope, but I wouldn't forgive you. I wouldn't forgive you. I would understand. I would forgive you if you were too tired to make it out. I do get it. John Paul Leon, John Paul Jones, and Leon the Professional. Yeah, I think that's something we all want. I'm glad you saw it too. Yeah. I would love to be able to see the Monday mystery movie thing. I've got a good friend that goes to those, but I really love doing this show, and so I got to do this. I'm unpacking all my haul right now, but we can get coffee Wednesday. I would love that, man. If you've got the energy, I would love that. If you can swing it, I would, with these gas prices, still drive down to Tacoma, get comics and coffee. Folks, I live in an area of the country that has a lot of taxes on gas. Washington just does tax gas a lot. So I think I've got possibly the most expensive gas other than certain parts of California, maybe Hawaii, but it's about $6.50 a gallon right now. $6.50 a gallon for regular. I'm not exaggerating. $6.49. So I am driving as little as possible. I'm driving to work, and when I can, if I need to, say, pick up groceries or something, I'm trying to combine it so that I'm doing that on the way home from work or something like that. It's brutal. It's so much. And then it's probably not going to go down anytime soon. So it hurts. Because I just don't feel like I've got a lot of free money right now. Like the community has been incredible. The GoFundMe went well. The claim sales with Dynamite and Comic Tom went well. Got some donations from people in here like Andy Kuhn and Dave from West Coast Avengers for my claim sales. Really helped. So I've had a lot of help, and we've got the majority of funds for the repairs from the community. We're still going to be paying a lot out of our own pocket. So, and that's going to take a long time. So I'm trying to keep my expenses down. I'm not buying fun stuff for myself. I'm getting the comics that I'll review and discuss, keep up with my show. But, I'm trying, and I can see movies because I've kept my AMC Stubs pass. But cut our streaming stuff, just letting friends and family let us share logins. Not getting extra stuff. We're not eating out. We're not getting, I'm not getting toys or video games right now, even though it's tempting. Trying to be smart. Maybe once I've got everything paid off, I can see where I'm at. I hope more. If I did another claim sale, I would be tempted to try to set it up on Whatnot because I really like their system where, as a viewer, you can basically just swipe to either bid or buy. I like that. You can preload all sorts of images and prices and things like that. So you can prepare a show and just start streaming it. I do like that setup. You pay some to them, but it instantly creates, a mailing slip. It instantly charges people and deposits it into your account. So I liked it. I was impressed. I was very impressed with how it's work, and you give something up. But I thought it was cool. Rob Liefeld. There are times where I want to defend Rob, and there are times where he does things that drive me nuts. Oh, I got to show you something that I came across recently with Liefeld. I saved it because the image was so bonkers. I was inspired to look at, what's it called? Fighting American. I guess I was just I went down a rabbit hole reading about Jack Kirby and stuff. And this was 2 panels in a Rob Liefeld Fighting American comic. That was 2 panels in a row. And it just looks so weird to me, like a close-up of a mouth followed by a close-up of eyes. Those are 2 different characters, but it just looks so weird to me. Looks so weird. Look at that. It looks like this would make as much sense, right? Doesn't, upside down, that almost looks like a face. It's just weird. Oh, and then this is the villain he created for the end of issue 1 of Fighting American. And is it going to focus? Maybe not. But that is just flat out the Terminator. That just is the Terminator. It's the exact same design. It's crazy. Oh, and in issue 2, he fights a big purple guy called Smash that says the madder Smash gets, the bigger Smash gets. I mean, it's just the Hulk. It just is. All right. I think that that's as good a time as any to wrap things up. I think I'm going to change some of this drawing. I got to get out my eraser and my pencil before I ink back here. Instead of just a hand, I think I'm going to make some sort of swirling eldritch horror with like tentacles and stuff, which theoretically we should be able to see the reflection of, just like we see Dean's face reflected here, but we don't. And hopefully people know that that's not a mistake, that that's an intentional choice that I'm trying to make. But I don't want it. At first I was going to have it be some sort of like, rotting monster, but I think I just want to have it be even weirder. Yeah, Ed McGuinness did some Fighting American. Fighting American is a weird ass story, folks. A character created in the 50s by Joe Simon and Jack Kirby, sort of commenting on the idea of, Captain America versus commies, because Marvel had re-envisioned Captain America that way, and they were like, well, that's not our character, so we're gonna do our own version of that. And after the first issue, which was kind of serious, they did like about 5 or 6 more, and it was more satirical with like silly names like Ivan Trotsky and things like that. I don't know. They all had silly names. But anyway, Fighting American has been a DC comic then. DC adapted like their property. Obviously, Rob Liefeld got the rights to it, and it was a total mess, but he got the rights to do a few issues when he couldn't do Agent America, which he couldn't do because Marvel had let him go from doing the Captain America Heroes Reborn book. And then Dynamite was going to do a Fighting American book. They got a bunch of covers and character designs by Alex Ross, which you can see out there, but they announced it before the deal was finished, so the Kirby estate withdrew from it. And so that never got published. But I think it currently does get published, or at least it did somewhat recently, by another publisher that I'm not thinking of. So Fighting American has been published by like 4 different companies. It's so weird. In my opinion, they overprice their items. Who does? Are you talking about Whatnot? Because that's up to the individual that's setting the price. But yeah. Well, look, I had a great time doing a show with everybody tonight, and I'm excited to talk about some of the books that we've got coming out this week. There's a new Absolute Batman. That's usually pretty interesting to discuss. There's some news that should be coming out pretty soon. Probably get some more news on like Marvel's Midnight line, a few other things like that. So no, Fighting American is not public domain. So all of these have been like licensed through the Simon and Kirby estate, which is just kind of wild. I think that a lot of people just see it as like, well, that's as close as we can get to licensing Captain America, but whatever. I had a great time, everybody. Thank you again. Keep reading comics. Remember to hit like and subscribe. And if you get a chance, please check out my episode on Tradmore over on Comic Tropes. If you already have, consider sharing it with just like at least one person, or share it on your socials, because the episode could use the help. And I had a great time, everybody. Keep reading comics. Bye.